My God, what is that? Wait, don't tell me. Welcome to You Guys Podcast. I'm Rob, that's Liam. And this week for our revisit season, we watched Big Trouble in Little China again. A film that takes the white savior motif and completely turns it on its head. Russell plays Jack Burton, who in his own mind is the world's greatest hero, but is more like Homer Simpson, who just keeps finding himself in these situations and somehow completely comes out unscathed. A character trait that is played beautifully by Kurt Russell, and a trait that I fear would be non-existent and completely change the film if the studio got their way of Jack Nicholson or Clint Eastwood. So come on, join us as we follow Jack Burton as he ineptly traverses the underbelly of Chinatown and goes up against human storms, ghosts, and magicians to help his friend rescue his kidnapped girlfriend from Lopan, who needs a girl with green eyes to help him become human again. And how did Lopan know about the girl with green eyes, I hear you ask? Was it years of searching, months of planning? Well, no, actually. It was because three gang members with fantastic glasses very easily kidnapped her from an airport. I mean, I know things have changed since 9/11 security wise, but fucking hell, I didn't know it was that easy to just grab a girl from the airport. With a lot of Chinese mythology, lots of action and martial art, and of course, one liners and hero poses, Big Trouble in Little China remains a firm favourite of mine. And as Liam said last week with The Goonies, this was my film of my childhood, one I watched more than any other film. It was always one to go back and enjoy. And yes, it may be silly, it may have its problems, but man, the kid in me just loves this every time. And spoiler alert, this film is fucking fantastic. I mean, Liam, I can't get over it. It's fucking fantastic.
Well, it's right. Rewatching this, it's a weird one because I don't have the same attachments to this film because I didn't watch it loads growing up. I think I mentioned on a previous podcast. I watched it, I kind of enjoyed it, and then just didn't watch it again. It just didn't stick the landing for me first time. And then I went back and rewatched it for the original Hey Guys podcast. Yeah. Absolutely adored it. And I still adore it now, but it's with the same old caveat. So when I go back and watch this for an hour, because it's that kind of film I watch every like 4 or 5 years or something. I start thinking it might be one of the greatest films of all time. And for an hour, like I fucking adore this film. I adore this film. And then the last 15 minutes happen. And the last 15 minutes, I'm not sure if the cocaine took hold or what, but it starts to lose narrative focus. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't got loads of narrative focus to start with. But the second half, I'm not sure if he feels too emboldened, but John Carpenter starts throwing everything at the wall.
Oh, dude, he threw everything to see what sticks. I totally agree with you,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, but there's too much in the second half.
Yeah, it was like they were right, we're already on fucking an hour and 15 minutes. We need to wrap this shit up. We can't let it go past hour and a half, so we need to wrap this up. How do we wrap it up? As speedy as possible. Let most of the bad guys kill themselves. Let Egg Shen randomly just have fucking, I don't know, a magic crossbow that pull, and the magic marbles, obviously. Magic crossbow. Let Wing Chen? Wang Chi, sorry, fucking
Wang, yeah.
Let Wang Chi all of a sudden be the greatest flying martial artist ever because that never materialized. Like he was good at martial arts halfway through the film, but the dude can fly.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I do think that kind of plays into the whole white savior thing and how nuanced that element of the film is, and we'll get to that in a minute. But as I said, like for an hour, this is an absolutely unbelievable amalgamation of genres, and he does it so successfully. Like, do you know how tricky it is to combine any genres, let alone one which involves like there's elements of westerns, gangster movies, martial arts, fantasy, horror. It leads into comedy more and more as the movie goes on, and then yes, somewhat inadvisedly, it introduces monsters to the fucking equation in the last 30-40 minutes of the movie.
That was fucking
so the
funny.
fact that there's so much going on is an unbelievable achievement, and the fact that it keeps the train on the tracks for an hour is almost unbelievable. But yes, it does go off the rails. And in the second half, as you say, when he's suddenly trying to wrap this thing up and turn it into a more traditional movie, all of a sudden you've got too many characters, too much exposition, too many narrative threads which don't go anywhere. And even at that point, he's throwing more new stuff at the table. So yes, like you said, all of a sudden the story just gets wrapped up out of nowhere. And I think actually the biggest crime, especially as such a big fan of this film, and that some of the coolest characters, like they couldn't even think of something to do, so they just killed themselves. Like Thunder is so badass in this film, and then he blows himself up out of like sheer sadness. Like what the fuck is going on?
I loved it. I wrote it down right. Where is it? Hang on, I did write it down. What did that statue do to Thunder? He stopped mid-battle with Wang to karate chop it. And then I love how Thunder just has a paddy when he sees Lo Pan is dead and just holds his breath till he dies. That's literally all he
Dude,
does. He sees Lo Pan dead and he goes, I'm just going to fucking
I'm
pull my
just gonna
toys out of the
blow
pram
myself up.
and I'm just going to hold my breath. Like,
The only one who doesn't go out like a complete bitch, and he still goes out like a bit of a bitch, is Rain. And
Rain.
Rain is
Yeah.
probably the least, when you see them, the two I think everyone remembers are Thunder because he's the biggest character. He plays the biggest role outside of Lo Pan in terms of the bad guys. And Lightning just because he looks amazing. Like him riding down on the Lightning is just, to this day, just looks unbelievable.
He is also super attractive. Like, he is a handsome
Oh,
man.
he's a handsome dude, but even he goes out like a punk. Like, again, as always, we've jumped to the end. He has the opportunity to just kill all of them down in the sewer. Instead, right, and don't get me wrong, everything he's doing looks dope. He does the whole thunder thing, the wall behind him crashes down, but he just lets them all get away and then just kind of dies. And I'm just like, oh, come on.
That's what I wanted to ask, right?
Sorry, Lightning, you can do better than that.
Yeah. So two things. First thing I want to say, we see Thunder's power, obviously. We see Lightning's power, but Rain doesn't make anything get wet. Like all he does is blow balls into into Jack Burton's stomach, which okay, by the by. But I wrote down right, why does Lightning get short shifted? He isn't around in his suit when Jack and the guys first burst into Lopan HQ. Rain and Thunder walking around Lopan HQ, in a nice three-piece suit. So Thunder's nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get a cool routine to get the girls to touch the Dragon Ball.
Mm-hmm.
You got Thunder who does his little
the erotic wedding dance. Of course, he's not included.
So
is he?
Thunder
No.
does the erotic wedding dance, then Rain does his little sensual sword thing, and then all Lightning does at the end is go and just I don't know, looks like he's taking a shit. Yeah,
I mean,
and then
he can do whatever he wants because he looks so cool, I suppose.
And then he has a shit death compared to the other two. His death is shit.
No, not compared to the other two.
On him.
No. His death is better than Thunder's. Thunder's is
no.
Thunder's
is great.
No, it's not great at all.
Thunder's is great because when he holds his breath, he starts looking like somebody from the Garbage Pail Kids.
He does.
It's fucking fantastic. It's great.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, my point is like for an hour, this film is borderline perfect. It does have its issue in the second half, but overall, this is still a fantastic film I absolutely adore. And a big part of that, as you mentioned in the intro, is Jack Burton. And it's not just the fact that would it have been a different movie with Clint Eastwood or Jack Nicholson? 100%. It needed Kurt Russell because many people, like he is basically a cinematic oxymoron. Somehow he is both really cool and super lame. And you need that character to be both things for this to feel nuanced. And a big part of that is John Carpenter's approach to the character. You feel like if this movie was in lesser hands, Jack Burton would be like a klutz or a lame ass all the way through. Instead, you look at it and go, I think he might be kind of lame, but I also kind of want to be him. And of course, a big part of that is the look. Like he looks so convincing. The iconography is so compelling that even the characters in the film are almost convinced he's the hero. Like Egg Shen at the start, you have that amazing cold opening with Egg Shen and the lawyer. And he's telling you, no, Jack Burton's the hero. Don't say an unkind word about Jack Burton. And even when they're having the big fight sequences at the end, and he's never involved because he's a complete fuck up. Like Wang saying to him, "Oh, good job, Jack, you're doing a great job." And it's like he's not, but even he, right through to the final showdown with Lo Pan, after Wang has the big cinematic action set piece against Rain, you get Jack who throws a knife at Lo Pan. It's really lame. Even in this heroic moment, he's covered in lipstick, and it's even on his teeth. It's not just on his lips; it's on his teeth. They're going out of their way to make him look lame, but he still has the big hero moment. So the fact that it manages to play with the whole notion and iconography of the white savior myth.
Sorry, don't move on. Don't move on to where else you're going, because you mentioned the opening, and I want to mention the opening. Because you said the opening about making him a hero. And it's interesting because according to John Carpenter, the opening of the film with Egg Shen in Lloyd's office was added at the request of the studio 20th Century Fox in order to make Kurt Russell's character more heroic. Mm-hmm. They didn't get the idea of Jack being a sidekick rather than a hero. So without the added scene, the film would have started with Jack driving to San Francisco. So they added that opening scene after the fact.
Yeah.
Because as we know, Jack's bumbling, but 20th Century Fox were like, no, we need him to be the hero. I'm thinking, no,
a lot of people didn't get it. Well, like
I don't need the open. I don't need the open. I could have done without the open.
Right. The thing is, I could do without the opening, but what it does have, and it's something I love about 80s cinema, is it does have the lightning. And it sets up the world to a certain extent, the whole Chinese black magic thing. So it's not a complete cold open. You can see why the is it Fox? I can't remember if it's Fox.
20th
Whatever.
Century Fox, yeah.
Yeah, the production company, they wanted that in there. If not only for Jack Burton, but just for the movie to make sense to people, because there's so much going on. But to have that lightning at the start, it just, for some reason, there are three things which just looked better in the 80s. Lightning on screen, gunshot wounds, much fucking better, and skeletons. I don't know why. They're just three things. They just look like, in this film, the underwater sequence, obviously last week we did the Goonies, just top tier skeleton work. And whenever you have lightning, skeletons. I think of this, I think of Return of Jedi. It just looks fucking amazing. In the same way that, a gunshot wound does never look better than in RoboCop. It's just one of those things.
You said a lot then earlier on, and you were talking about Jack and his look and everything, and it'd be different if we had Clint Eastwood or who did I say? Jack Nicholson. I was thinking, and to be fair, I don't want anybody else. I would never want anybody else to play Jack Burton. Kurt Russell was perfect. I've already said that. But I was thinking about who could play this kind of character who is just lame. I mean, for all the things, like all the lines he says and everything is lame. And I fell on one random suggestion, and it was another John Carpenter cast. It's fucking Rowdy Roddy Piper. It's like his character from They Live. Like he could probably be a bit more imposing than Kurt Russell, I guess, but he's got the lines, he's got the stupid like look on his face and everything.
That's actually a fantastic shot. Somebody who can be simultaneously cool and lame at the same time is such a strange balance act. But I think, like you said, Roddy Piper in They Live is kind of lame in a certain way, but like he's just got that look where he's just like, the only thing I'll say about Roddy Piper, and this is no criticism of Roddy Piper, you could say this of almost anybody on planet Earth. They're just not as cool as Kurt Russell. And I think that's the reason. And it's not just the genius of making Kurt Russell look the part. So you're almost watching this going, wait, is he supposed to be the hero? It's like, even if Wang was a prototypical hero for the whole film, it would be more obvious. But even Wang is fucking lame. Like you said, it's not until the end when he really turns into a bit of a superhero. But the start of the film, there's no sign of him being the traditional hero. He's 5'2". He's wearing that ridiculous hat he can't pull off. He's supposed to be meeting the quote unquote love of his life the next morning. So he spends the whole evening gambling away money he doesn't have. He's late to the airport. He's a fuck up as well. So
also,
you're watching it and you're just like, so when you're watching it for the first time, you're like, wait, is Jack the hero? Is Wang the hero? Is anyone the hero? It's like, in the end, it doesn't matter, but it's genius all the same.
He also doesn't look very upset that his missus has been kidnapped. Like he goes home and just makes him dinner. I'll just make some dinner with my uncle.
There's a few things I don't get in this film, and they're underdeveloped, to say the least. One of them is his love for, is it Mao Ying? Is that her name?
Mao Ying, yeah.
Why he is so in love with her is strange.
I can see why, mind. Sorry, I can see why he's in love with her. She is smoking.
She is attractive, but even the whole like Lo Pan curse with Emperor Xi Huan, it's like that's really underdeveloped. Like even to the point where you forget what the core narrative is. I remember like 3/4 of the way through, I was just like, wait a minute, why is Jack here? Oh yeah, he's looking for his truck. He's just looking for his truck. That's all it is, and it gets out of hand. He's the ultimate armchair hero. He's just an everyday guy, but in the most traditional, literal sense, who's just overconfident. He's, the guy who like shouts at the football, like, oh, that guy's fucking shit, I could do better than that. And like part of it in their head, it's like, oh, they think they can. But the difference is like, this is him, the equivalent of him ending up on the football field. He talks such a good game, and then halfway through, he's just like, wait a minute, I'm in an action movie. I'm in over my head, but I don't want to admit I'm in over my head. So I'm just going to keep going. Like, even at that one point when he shoots the guy and he just has that moment on his face, it's just like, is that the first time you've plugged someone, Jack? He's like, no. And you can see he's like, oh my God, I just fucking killed someone, dude.
It's his confidence. Like, he's convincing himself as well as everyone around him he can do this.
Exactly.
You mentioned the curse. And I have a question about the curse. Okay. Lo Pan was cursed thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago.
I can see where this is going. Yeah.
He was also, has he always been David Lo Pan, or has he been westernized and has he added the David, right? Also,
such a silly name. Why is he David Lo Pan?
Also, how does a Chinese man who was cursed, I presume in China, travel to America as a ghost? Does he book a plane ticket? Does he book a boat ride?
Well, I guess because he's got his lackeys, it's kind of like, with like Nosferatu, when he has to travel across from like Transylvania to London or whatever, or to England. It's like he has his lackeys kind of put him in the dirt and get him on the boats and stuff like that. His familiars, as it were. I assume he's got to deal with the likes of lightning, thunder, rain, and stuff. Who will, or the what are they called? The gang, the really lame looking gang
Oh,
who show up at the airport.
the gang that
Oh, sorry, the Lords of Death. They're
the
kind of
Lords of Death,
Chinese
yeah.
triads. I'm sure they're all in that together. I mean, they're the worst triads, by the way, the worst gangsters in the world. They literally look as threatening as like
Fantastic
as the
glasses, though.
gangsters in Michael Jackson's Bad video. It's just,
Eh,
but I do love the glasses. I
the
give that.
like that. How did that guy see through? Were they actually a fashion in the 80s?
I mean, let's be honest, they're not a million miles away from like the Kanye West glasses a few years ago, kind of thing. So maybe. I assume he can see something. But yeah, like you mentioned, the fact that he just rolls. I was thinking about that sequence, actually, the airport sequence, because it's just like, it was ridiculous in the 80s. You could just roll up anywhere, just abduct someone. Where would you get the guns through? But then I was like, if you're waiting at departures, and I'm thinking specifically of the airport near me, so I'm thinking Edinburgh Airport. I'm like, if I was packing heat, I could just walk up to departures. There's no metal detectors on the door. I'm not going through security. I'm just waiting at departures. And if I had to abduct someone and get them out of the airport and I was packing heat, I'm like, I reckon I could do it at Edinburgh. I 100% think I could. So my first thought was exactly the same as yours. It's just like, how the fuck did they manage that in an airport? And I know it's different in America. But if I was thinking in Edinburgh, where the departure gate is, and I had a gun, I reckon I'm strolling out of there. Unless the cops were walking by at just that moment. But I think I'd be okay. But sorry, I've kind of gone off piece there after the whole David Lopan thing. But that brings me to the other David Lopan thing. And while he is fantastic in this film, the whole green-eyed girl thing is so dumb. So that's a massive conceit of the film. It's like, oh, well, I've got to get this girl because she has green eyes. But then Gracie Law, he's like, oh, she has green eyes too. I'm going to make her my wife as well. And it's just like, dude, you could have just gone to, I don't know, fucking Ireland or something.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Green-eyed, if it wasn't like specific, a green-eyed Chinese girl, apparently it's just all you need was a green-eyed girl. It's like, dude, you've been waiting around thousands of years. Do you know how many green-eyed girls there are? There's tons of them.
They even say it. Do you know how rare it is? Oh, Chinese girls don't come with green eyes. So that was the whole. I thought that was the whole curse.
Conceit, yeah, totally.
Chinese girls don't come with green eyes. So the only way you're gonna get out of this curse if you find a Chinese girl with green eyes.
Yeah, like an ultra
No.
rare Chinese girl. But no, just any old girl with green
You know
eyes.
what? It might be like 6 degrees of separation. She's lived in Chinatown long enough. She's technically Chinese now, Gracie Law, I guess.
I don't think that's really a thing. But they're saying that it kind of works in rugby. If you play in Wales for 5 years, it doesn't matter where you're from. You can play for Wales in rugby. So maybe there is an element of that. I don't know. But that's one of the things with this film. Another star of the show beyond, obviously, Carpenter's directorial work and Kurt Russell is the cinematography of this film. I think this is an absolutely gorgeous. It's not something which gets shouted about a lot when you think of this film, but Dean Cundy, who was actually a cinematographer on Jurassic Park and Apollo 13.
What did you call him?
Is it Dean Cundy? Is that his name? Cundy?
Sorry, I must have drifted off because I could have sworn you said Cunty for a minute.
No, I did not say Cundy.
Okay.
I think it's Cundy. I might be the pronunciation might not be correct, but I'm pretty sure it's not Cunty. Put it that way. But right from the off, when you get that fantastic shot of the market in San Francisco and it's all rainy stuff, it's just like, God damn, this is a well shot movie. And it's not just well shot; it's wonderfully choreographed. In one of, I would say, my top. This could be recency bias, but I would put it in the conversation for top 10 scenes of all time. So that combination of on location work in San Francisco and on set work when they go down the alleyway for the big showdown, fucking love it. That was the moment when I was watching this film. I was just like, I think this might be my favorite film of all time. It's so
when he goes
good.
down,
It's a seamless combination, as I say, of on set and on location, and that whole sequence where it really truly is an amalgamation of all these genres, all in one scene, all wonderfully shot, all wonderfully choreographed. And just as you think it can't get any better, the fucking 3 storms roll into town. Get to fuck, man! It's so awesome.
Also, if they've been going around for years, right? Lopan and the Storms. How come everybody doesn't know who they are? Like they've just appeared out of nowhere. And also, the Storms are attacking both sides, the red and the white, the black and the white.
Yeah, they don't seem to give a fuck. The red and white thing, I'm not sure how important they were. Just felt like an excuse to have a big fight. Like they're all like the two different kind of tribes or squads, whatever the fuck you want to call them. I'm just like, I don't really know much about them. I don't really give a shit. It was just, well, we're gonna have to incorporate them into the narrative because we want them here. But really, I think it was just an excuse to have a massive Western style combinate, Western slash Asian like fighting showdowns, complete with miniguns and all sorts and stuff. It was great.
You brought it up now. You brought the showdown. There's a couple of questions again I have to ask about the showdown. The first one being that is they square up for a showdown, and then they all pull out guns to start with, and then they decide to fight without them. Secondly, they were having a funeral, but they figured this might happen. So the good guys who were having the funeral, the staffs that they were using to carry the body were fighting staffs as well, extendable fighting staffs, because they were able to pull them out of the coffin. So that poor dead body's rolling down the street now because they've just taken the coffin. And they've clicked.
I'm not even sure there's a dead body in there. I think they knew it was a setup, and this was all just like it's going down.
They had the funeral in the morning, so this was just okay.
Yeah, we'll just pretend later on.
And then again, they look fucking fantastic, right? The storms, they come down, they do their thing,
so cool.
They do their robot thing, and the knife makes robotic sounds as it goes up to their arm.
Which shouldn't work, just to be clear. No, it shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah. But then they pull out three of the lamest weapons I've ever seen. The back scratcher of doom.
Yeah, that's what I've got written down. Back scratcher, yeah.
Yeah. Lightning had the weird ring blenders. Like
spinny fork things, yeah.
Yeah, it slices. And I can't even remember what Thunder had. What did Thunder have?
Or me. I've literally got those two written down. And I was like, what did Thunder have? I was like, it must have been a normal weapon. Because what I remember is the back scratcher and the spinny fork ring things. And they're just, again, they kind of put it off because the look is so iconic and they do look amazing. But to give them such lame weapons seems a bizarre choice, and ones that they never use for the rest of the film. Why? Because they don't make any sense. Like, what does the back scratcher and the spinny fork thing look like in action? Because they never actually use them. They're just like, oh, look, I have this. And they do their little faces, they make a little noise, and they do the weapon thing. But then they don't use those weapons because it's just like, it's going to make them look really dumb. The only one who uses a weapon, I think, is Rain at the end of the film with his fight with Wang. So
yeah, he has the sword, yeah.
Yeah, which is a cool little showdown. But yeah, it's weird because, as I said, it shouldn't work on paper because the weapons are lame, the sound effects are stupid, but it does work. And I think it's because, like, if you go back to the 80s, I'm not sure if there was a finer cinematic stylist than Carpenter.
Thunder had the exact same weapons he did when he did his erotic wedding dance. He had he had the knife with the weird half moon blade on it.
Oh, yeah, they're kind of cool. Yeah, he pushes them out in front of it. Yeah, I can see it now.
But for some reason, they decided not to let, like, I mean, Lightning again, he didn't get anything to do in the fucking erotic wedding dance, so he didn't get to pull out his salad spinner fork.
Which is a shame for everyone involved, let's be honest.
But it probably would have looked lame if all of a sudden he Rain pulled out the back scratches of doom, and that's what they held to go to touch the Dragon Ball. So they probably had to change it to swords.
Yeah, I mean, oh my god, that wedding sequence is so dumb. But like we were saying, like that sequence in lesser hands would be terrible. But because it's Carpenter at the peak of his powers, because make no mistake, Carpenter after the 80s had a pretty serious drop off, which has not improved in any meaningful way since. But if you go back from like Assault on Precinct 13 was 76, and then Halloween in 78, and then Escape 81, The Thing 82, this in 86, They Live in 88. Like, I'm not saying it's the best directorial run of all time, but it is one of my favorites. And this is very much part of that. I will say, I don't think this quite belongs at the top table. And that's not a criticism of this film. It's because the top table includes two of the greatest movies ever made. Like, I would put Halloween and The Thing at the top table. And then the second tier, you can make an argument about like who is involved, but I would have like this, Escape from New York, They Live, and Assault on Precinct 13. The ones I previously mentioned, they're all on that second tier. And I would probably have this top of the second tier. So this is arguably my third favorite Carpenter film, but it's not quite in the same league as The Thing and Halloween, which are admittedly near perfect movies.
So I disagree. I wouldn't put Halloween up there. Oof. Personally, I wouldn't do it.
Masterpiece. I watched it again recently on 4K at the cinema, and it's still amazing.
I'm not saying it's not good.
Oh no,
I
no,
wouldn't.
I get
Yeah,
it. I get it. Yeah.
yeah. I'm just trying to see his directorials, but this is up there. I'm sorry, this is up there.
Oh yeah, it's up there. I
Yeah,
just
no, no,
like I
no, no.
said.
It's top
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me. It's top tier along with the thing.
Okay, yeah,
The thing is like the benchmark for John Carpenter for me.
yeah, yeah.
That is fucking iconic. I would put this up there with that. And to be fair, right, I'm gonna put in the second tier
Hmm.
Into the Mouth of Madness, which I think is fucking
Yep.
great, but not
There's
a
a
lot of
few other
people
films you can.
mention. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I
and
quite like that one.
maybe Escape from LA. No,
No,
I'm taking a
sir.
piss. No, no, no.
That was, if ever you want a sign of his decline, then the comparisons between Escape from New York and Escape from LA. Like Escape from New York is such a cool film. We've actually done it on the podcast. We're going to go back and listen to it. But Escape from LA, and I thought, because remember when we did Escape from New York, I was like, was I being harsh on Escape from LA? And then I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm going to give it another go. I made it like 20 minutes in. I was like, no, this is ass. It is one of the ugliest films I've ever seen. It's so ugly. It's ridiculous. But anyway, back to a film which is definitively not ugly. Big Trouble in
We
Little
should
China.
do In the
Absolutely
Mouth of
gorgeous film.
Madness. We should do
Yeah,
In
we
the Mouth
should.
of Madness.
That'd be a
Yeah.
good shout, actually. That'd be a good shout. But yeah, going back to this. Oh, one other thing I wanted to ask you, because you've got the poster for this on your wall, haven't you?
Fucking yeah.
Not just yeah, fucking yeah. And I
Fucking
think that's
yeah.
fair because I was looking at the posters. I was like, you could put an argument that this belongs in that kind of rarefied air of greatest 80s movie posters. And if I'm saying greatest 80s movie posters of all time, I'm probably talking about some of the greatest movie posters, full stop.
Yeah,
So
but
I
I don't
have,
have. Sorry, I
sorry,
don't have the poster for this, mind. I have
okay.
a Big Trouble in Little China poster, but it
Mhm.
was like a commission, so it's an artist rendering. So
Okay.
I
But
don't know if you
you
can
know the
remember it.
traditional poster,
I
don't
know
you?
the traditional poster, and I'll put the picture of this online so
Oh yeah,
other
yeah,
people
that
can
is
see
very
it.
cool. Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
but yeah, but that's great. I've also got like the poster on my keyring.
Oh,
So if
nice,
you
nice,
hadn't,
nice.
if you didn't know, because I gave you for Christmas, didn't I? I gave you a little VHS
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah,
the
awesome.
Predator.
Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
cool. Tiny
Well,
little VHSs.
mine was Big Trouble in Little China
Very cool. Well, it's
because
a great show because I think it belongs up there with Cobra, Roadbook Hop, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, and dare I say, the more I look back at this film, I think Masters of the Universe has one of the best posters of the 80s. I fucking love the poster for Masters of the Universe. Like people, you can have your own opinions on the movie. I actually quite like Masters of the Universe, but the poster is dope. But yeah, this belongs in that kind of top tier, I think. But then many elements of this film too, as I said, especially the first half. Although it's just every time I think this is like, inching towards being like my favorite movie, like something weird happens. Like when they go back to Egg Shen's place. And by the way, Egg Shen's place is clearly the fucking station from Ghostbusters.
absolutely, like I mean, they've said it. That's where it was filmed. It
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they don't even try to hide it.
No,
It
it's
was
not
like
even. It just looks like they were just on there at the weekend when the Ghostbusters were out.
the Ghostbusters moved out and they moved in quickly. It was like, oh look,
Fantastic.
the
What was the
egg.
other film that used it? Was it Mask? The Mask.
I think they've used her in the mask. I think randomly it was like and I could be wrong here. It was the mechanic, the
Yeah,
mechanic's place in the
the
mask. Yeah,
mechanic space in the Mask. Yeah.
yeah. But the most magic thing Egg Shen does of the entire film was that quick change when they walk into the firehouse
Mhm,
and he
mhm,
goes in the back and Burton is just turning around going, "This place is a piece of shit." No, no, no. He's very rich. He's got like lots of little
mhm,
bits. He comes back seconds later. He's dressed completely in all black. He's
mhm.
got his demon eight bag or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And like it's been a while since he's probably worn those trousers because they looked a little loose. The way he's trying to pull them up, like do a Simon
I
Cowell.
see. I hardly even noticed that because at this point I'm looking at Jack Burton's silk kimono and going, "Why the hell is he just randomly wearing a silk kimono just out of the blue?" Just okay. I guess you're wearing. Is that Eggshen's place or is that earlier? I can't remember now. I may be mixing them up. But there was a
Oh no, no.
sequence.
So he's wearing a silk kimono when he's for some reason randomly when he's trying to call the insurance.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
And
it. That's it.
he says a perfect line. I'm going to tell you a story, and I don't want to hear act of God.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any of that shit because
Yeah,
yeah, I can see the way the wind is blowing on this one. I mean, that's when the film starts to get a little bit messy, and you get like we've not even mentioned Kim Cattrall's Gracie Law, who, as crazy as this film is, I feel like she's still in a different movie. I'm pretty sure she's only a lawyer because they wanted to call it Gracie Law, and they thought it'd be cool that she'd be called Gracie Law and she'd be a lawyer. Because realistically, what she should be is a reporter, and what they shouldn't have is is it Margot?
Yeah, Margot the reporter. Like, yeah, she's
Margot
a
can
lawyer.
just go. There's no need for her to be in this film at all.
Gracie doesn't need to be, like you've just said, Gracie doesn't need to be a lawyer. And
She doesn't.
the,
She should be a reporter.
you did say as well, like there's a lot of narrative threads that just get pulled but don't
Mhm.
go anywhere. The reason they put her at the airport was to pick up that random Chinese girl.
Mhm.
And they say, oh, yeah, I was picking her up because I think her civil rights or something were being abused. But then, no, that's fine. She just stayed. She is now living in Gracie's house while
Mhm.
Gracie is out fighting Chinese demons.
It's very strange. But then you've got the whole like Margot and Eddie thing. Again, Eddie, I'd argue, doesn't need to be in the film. It's almost perfect that Margot and Eddie like end up together. Just like
Yeah.
we don't know what to do with them, put them together. I'm pretty sure Margot and Eddie are only there to work as basically exposition sponges. So there is a point halfway through the film, I think it might be at Egg Shen's place, where all of a sudden they decide, fuck, we're going to have to deliver a lot of exposition. And it's so self-aware and so winky. And the only person who really seems to get it is Kim Cattrall. She is playing that character like a fucking cartoon. Like she is going big with her performance. She pulls it off, but it's a big old performance. And again, I just don't understand why she's a lawyer. It just seemed needless. She just needs someone to come in, streamline things a little bit, and just say, listen, we'll get rid of Margot. She can just be a reporter. She doesn't need to be a lawyer. That's silly. I know the name thing's funny, but it's pointless. And we can like maybe knock 10 minutes off this film.
What I love as well, the narrative of the film, they're all in their own mini films. In Jack's film, he's the hero.
Yeah,
In
totally.
in Wang's film, it's like not a romantic comedy. It's just a romance.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's trying to rescue the love of his life. Gracie's film, again, it's all about her. When she comes through, they know it's Gracie. And
Mm-hmm.
why can everyone just walk into the back of this restaurant? But okay, that's fine.
Sure, sure.
She walks in and they're like, wow, what the fuck are you doing here? She's like, relax, it's me, Gracie Law.
Yeah,
Nobody
that's what I
asked you, love.
mean.
Yeah, nobody asked.
Yeah, but you
And
know, the
then,
way she delivers the line, it's
yeah,
so bizarre.
but then when she meets up with Margot, then,
Mm-hmm.
and then she goes, I'll be back now, guys. I recognize that car. Of course, you recognize the car. You've called her to come and meet you. So she runs over to the car. She gets in. She goes, in there. What is it? In there. This is where all the women are. But we've got our best man on it. Like the dude you met like 30 seconds ago. Like,
It's again though, it's like all of that stuff as you say it out loud, I'm like, it's pretty dumb, but the brothel sequence is actually, when you watch it, is pretty dope. Like it starts playing up the comedy for like a brief period in time. Like Jack Burton just goes undercover as a nerd for some reason. It's like, okay, why not?
sorry, in his suit that he wore in that used car film. Uh,
Oh yeah, it is
Used
that, isn't it?
cars.
Of
It was
course.
the same suit.
Yeah,
Like
which
he
is
must have just
genius.
had that. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. It's the whole cocaine thing of just like somebody said, "Oh, that'll be a good idea." So we'll just kind of force it into the film, whether it works or not. But then it gets away with it again because the brothel sequence, while playing up on the comedy, still has the spectacle with, like I said, lightning literally riding in on lightning. It's just like, oh yeah, that bit is totally badass. It's this movie. I can't think of another film which is this much of a mess, but this awesome. But
Yeah.
up until like this point, I'm still totally on board. It's only when they start going down into the sewers and there's a whole underground thing under Chinatown
And there's
that I'm just like,
900
oh,
there's 900 hells. The other
yeah,
thing
yeah.
that I don't even think I picked up on our last visit of this film when we did it at the beginning of our podcast career was he needs a girl with green eyes.
Mhm,
I'm sure all the time watching this, I'm sure I thought they kidnapped her
mhm.
because she had green eyes. And then when I paid attention to this, no, no,
Mhm.
no, they were just there, women shopping, like to sex
Oh,
traffic.
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
The Lords of Death were just at the airport
Mhm.
to shop for a woman to
So
sex
they
traffic.
weren't working for Lopan at that point. They're just kind of like they're kind of in and around. They travel in the same circles, but this is for the brothel
Yeah,
rather than for Lopan's
yeah,
underground sex
and
dungeon.
that's when they found out when she was in the brothel. That's when they found out.
Mhm.
Oh, she's got green eyes. Send the storms, because they were there and they went after the girl that Gracie was there to meet. And then
Mhm.
when Jack kind of fucked that up, you hear the one guy go get the other one.
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
was just
Mhm.
like get the second, like, get the was it bonus prize or whatever it is, or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
second
yeah,
prize.
yeah.
And I argue, no, 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 Mao Ying should have been the fucking gold
You are a big
standard.
fan of Mao Ying, which
Oh
I
mate,
feel is
huge fan of Mao
important
Ying.
for this to work. I mean, she's perfectly fine. Like, she's a pretty woman, of course, but she's such a non-event. I know she doesn't get many lines, but
Oh
she
yeah, yeah, yeah,
always
yeah.
looks so incredibly vacant. Like my big issue was, and I know you're in love with her apparently, which is cool. Like she's hot and stuff, but I never got why Wang was so bang into it. Like he's so in love with, but we don't get any background as to like how they met or why they're getting together, or more importantly, so like she's super attractive. Why would she be into Wang? Like there's nothing about Wang, certainly for most of the film, which is just like, oh, he's a catch. It's only like I
Not
said,
just
when he
that.
starts fighting Rain at the end, you're just like, oh, turns out Wang's a bit of a badass, but.
How long she waited for him apparently because he's been in San Francisco for years trying to bring it over. Hey, Mao Ying, right, played by Susie Pie.
Mhm.
Obviously she's I say obviously like she's only like got 7 acting credits,
Mhm.
but she does have a credit in a film that we've covered.
What's that?
Well, I was going to ask.
I
I
have
bet you
no
can't
idea.
guess. No. Okay.
Golden Child? Because there is
Oh
a
no
bit
no
of
no.
crossover with Golden.
Yeah.
Is it Lightning is in Golden Child, I think.
Is he? I'll
I
double check
think
that now.
Lightning's in Golden Child.
So she is in First Blood, uncredited, of course,
Nice.
as Vietnamese prostitute.
Oh, there we go. There we
Yeah.
go. So she went on to bigger and better things with this. Although, First Blood is a bit of an action masterpiece, if truth be told. But yeah, when they actually go and pick her up, it's quite strange. Like the whole escape sequence from Lo Pan's Sex Dungeon Palace, it's quite odd because they all seem to know how to. They were all like, oh, we're going to go out through the sewer. Like they've been told, but everybody seems to be running around like a headless chicken. But it just seems to work out. But that second part of the film, it just seems to be escape after escape after escape. And I just kind of lost track of where they are. And I'm just like, I'm just not sure I care. It's all still kind of fun. But like I said, I did start eye rolling when, it did jump the shark with the sewer monsters. Like it's as simple as that. And when I'm gonna call him Jeff, I don't know what the dude's name is, but a giant bug crawls up the side of a sewer, kills one of their boys, then Egg Shen just throws magic marbles at it, that explodes, and everyone just moves on. Nobody's like, dude, that guy just got fucking eaten by a giant bug. And then the big furry monster with like the long arms, he shows up. I'm just like, who's this guy? What the fuck's
It's
going
funny
on?
because that bug looked great, but it was when Egg said he won't come out anymore. What? What won't come out of where? Like Burton is just like,
Exactly.
what the fuck is going on? He
And
hasn't got
just
a
when you
clue.
think it can't get any stranger, you get the fucking eyeball guardian, which
Oh
felt like a visual flex. Like it looks, out of everything in the film, it looks the worst. Like now, going back to it, I bet you in
no, no.
1981. Sorry.
So sorry. It looks the worst when it's floating and flying.
Mhm.
When it's on the floor and it's a puppet
Yeah,
and
it looks much better.
it licks his own face with an eyeball on the end of a tongue.
Mhm,
It
mhm.
looks fucking fantastic.
It does, but there's
And
that
really
bit with the
quickly,
stop motion. Well, not it's not
yeah,
stop motion, but like the style that
yeah.
they use for Abbott flying around, that hasn't aged wonderfully. And more importantly, I'm just like, why have we got an eyeball guardian now? What the fuck's happening?
Really quickly,
Yeah,
Lightning
go for it.
wasn't in Golden Child. It was Rain, and he played Tommy Tong.
Rain, that was it. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm mixing up
yeah.
my
Uh,
three
but I
storms.
mean, I love that. Like they decided, well, we're going to introduce you slowly to the Chinese mythology, to everything that's going on in the underground,
Mhm.
and then they thought, you know what, fuck it, we're just going to just give it all to you in one go. Because I loved as well the whole they got hells for everything. I know there was a joke about it. Chinese got a lot of hells, but
Mhm.
there's hell like boiling water. There was the hell of the upside down sinners, not swimmers, the upside down sinners. There's a hell for everything. It's fucking insane.
It does allow for some visual imagination, but it does make for an aesthetically messy second half. I said to the point where you just because they don't spend any time explaining these things, they just like you say, you get a line saying it's about like the multiple hells of China. Like what? Like you said, I just kind of lost track of where they were. Like the geography of the film became messy until, of course, we get to Lopan's magnificently 80s wedding and his magic neon escalator. That's when I was back the fuck on board. Although it was a massive oversight on Lopan to not leave a basic security team behind. Like, so he's just had the eyeball guardian spot these motherfuckers on the way to his wedding. Yeah. Like he's like,
Yeah,
they're on their
yeah.
way. They're going to cause at least a bit of a problem. And he just doesn't leave anyone behind. He's just like, no, everyone just comes to the wedding. I'm not having any of you miss this. Dude, look at everything I've done with the neon lights. Have you not seen the escalator? Dude, check
I,
out the fucking
I,
escalator. It's
I
dope as
wonder if
fuck.
I wonder if he was going. Oh no, they'll never find my hidden elevator, my hidden lift behind the
So
fucking
ridiculous.
weird. Like I, it was funny as well because you got all these guys around, and Wang goes Jack, and he goes, "Let me guess, hollow, hollow, fuck it." slices them. Like they're not going to find the lift. It's insane.
Again, you kind of forgive him because James Hong kind of steals the show anytime he's on screen as David Lopan, especially. Whoa. Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
wrong. I tried to mute you and then not mute you, mute myself because I was coughing, and then I took the video off.
Oh, fair enough.
You're right.
I
We're still
I
here.
just thought the call had just ended.
We're
But
still
it's
going.
like we don't get a huge amount of like old Lopan, but when he's like doing the old man thing, he's absolutely fantastic there as well. So the fact that he makes an array of terrible decisions, and you're just like, how did this guy manage to live like 2,000 years or get just anything done? How did he manage to get that escalated down into his like weird marriage dungeon? It's absolutely ridiculous. And even the fact that he decides just on a whim to be like, I'm just going to marry two of these women. I can assure you, the older you get, the less appealing that sounds. Like, yeah, sure, they're both very attractive. Kim Cattrall, it's like, why not throw Kim Cattrall into the mix as well? Dude, having two wives, my God, that sounds like hard fucking work. It's one of the things, like, honestly, I just don't understand. You hear about these stories where people are like, they have two lives and they have like a wife over here and a wife over there and they don't know about each other. I'm like, I couldn't even cheat on my wife if I wanted to. I'd be like,
I say
that's so much hard work.
I say the same thing to Kat when we talk about things like that, and she looks over and she goes, "Would you ever think about cheating?"
No.
Love, I'm too tired to be with you. Like
Yeah.
I don't want a fucking
You're
another one.
you're, if anything, a little bit too much. Just you.
Yeah,
Like the idea of adding someone else on top, and that's just cheating. That's just going somewhere else to fuck another person. Completely out of the question. The idea of having like two wives. So this is a different problem because they're both there. I mean, I love my wife to
no, but
death. I don't want two of them. For God's
he's
sake.
getting the best of both worlds, isn't he? Though, because all right, he doesn't want two wives, but he's not going to have two wives for long if this succeeds. Because he's just going to he's got to kill Gracie Law because he wants to fuck Mao Ying. It's not the other way around. He's going to marry because no, because he has to. The curse thing is you have to marry a girl with green eyes,
Mhm.
then you have to sacrifice her to the emperor to become human fully.
Oh, okay.
That's the curse.
Oh yeah, because
So
he's trying to kill them, which again is poorly explained. So they've done the
yeah,
whole burning blade thing, which is very odd with the magic sex dance or whatever it is. But then
yeah,
he's
but
just trying
also
to
so he
stab
had
them
to
through the
bring.
hands, and he's like slowly becoming more human, and you're just like, okay, like
Loved it.
so,
Is the needle because the needle was kind of in his sleeve as well. So as
yeah.
he's stabbing her in the wrist, is the
Mhm.
needle stabbing him? Like, is it a needle that's coming from? Because he
But
puts his hand in his sleeve and he pulls out a drop of blood, and he's like, "Oh, it's working."
that's
Great.
the thing, though. You said he has to kill one of them to become human, but at the end, he's quite clearly human, and he has to be in a human form so that Jack Burton could kill him. With
Yeah.
again, one of like, so you've just had that amazing showdown, and then Jack. It's a wonderful scene where Jack throws a knife, and it's like if you threw a knife, it's like, oh, I'm going to throw this knife at this guy's head. And that's what it would look like. You'd throw it, and you'd miss, and it would hit something. You'd be like, oh, that's lame. But then a second later, he throws the knife back at Jack. He suddenly turns into a superhero. He catches it, has a second go, and this one goes straight into his head. So that sequence in and of itself is insane. But then if you add to the fact that, okay, he must have been human, does that just undermine the rest of the plot building up
Yeah,
to this?
it kind of
It
does.
totally does.
The other thing I could have done without out with. Sorry, that was a fucking poor sentence. The other thing I could have done without
Mhm.
was after Lopan, David Lopan. Let's give him his first name, David
He's
Lopan.
gonna, yeah, he's definitely David
Yeah,
Lopan.
after
He's trying to
David Lopan.
ingratiate himself to the locals in San Francisco for
Yeah,
some bizarre reason.
after David Lopan is killed,
Mhm.
then all the Buddhas play dominoes. And I could have done without that scene. It was just pointless. I don't know why that affected me so much. I just didn't need the domino
I'm
scene.
just upset that you had all these cool, like Lopan and the Three Storms are awesome. They're fucking awesome. The introduction, we mentioned the Three Storms coming down the alleyway, Lopan showing up, getting driven over. That doesn't bother him. He does like the kind of light out of his face thing. It just looks badass. And then Lopan gets stabbed in the head. Thunder explodes from sadness. Lightning just kind of does nothing and dies. And Rain, well, kind of goes out like a punk to Wang. And I was just like, guys, they deserved better than this. They just, you have all this build up. They should have been more elaborate, more impressive showdowns. But maybe there's like an inside joke there, which I'm not getting. But I just thought that was like one of the bigger shames. It's like you're trying to force all these things into the movie. It's like just keep the focus on these main characters and do something awesome with them. And it just didn't quite stick the landing for me, which is a shame because as I said, I love so much about this movie that it just feels more disappointing when like the final 30-40 minutes become well, like I keep saying it, enjoyable, become more and more messy, sadly.
The thing for me that upset me was how quick Al Leong went. We
Hmm.
know Al Leong, Al Leong from Die Hard. He was the Nestle Crunch guy. You know,
Yeah, he has
he
such a great introduction.
yeah,
Such a great
he with
introduction.
it because he's actually crediting you as Hatchet Man #1, so he's not even given a name. But we haven't done it for a while, so I want to bring back one of my favorite games, Known For.
Oof.
Al Leong's known for. Now, this is going to be interesting because Al Leong is known for like everything in the 80s.
Yeah.
But you've got four guesses, but I will give you a hint.
Okay.
We have done all four.
We've done all four.
We've done all four.
Well, one of them has to be Die Hard, right?
Yeah.
What the hell would the other one? Would it be this? I mean, because
Yes.
he's only in
This.
it briefly, but he is
No,
like the
no.
Hatchet Man, isn't he?
This. Yeah. The one he has a very big part in.
A very big part.
Very big part. Yeah. If I told you the character's name was Genghis Khan,
Genghis Khan. Oh, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yeah.
Oh, and the other one has to be Lethal Weapon, surely.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on. Lethal Weapon.
Yeah,
He's,
because he does one of like the best. I know this is a weird thing to say, but that's one of the best torture sequences because he's doing like the weird mop things. And like I remember when I was younger, I was just like I didn't quite get it. I was like, wait, what's he doing to him? Why does it hurt so much? But yeah, he's awesome in that. Why does he leave? Why does he always leave such an impression with such a small role? It's crazy.
Because he does it perfect. He's even got his own documentary, right? The
Does
Al
he?
Leong story, the story of a henchman. Like,
I'm
because
trying to
that's
think.
basically just like he saw a niche and he just went with it. Absolutely.
Was he in Showdown in Little Tokyo?
Oh, I don't think he
I
was.
had that in my head, but I've only seen Showdown in Little Tokyo once, and I saw it. I'm just saying that because I saw a clip of that movie recently, and I was like, I
Oh,
think we might have to
sorry.
do that for
No,
the
he is.
podcast.
He is in show. We are doing Showdown in Little
Yeah,
Tokyo because
we've
it's
got
one
to
of
do
my
that.
favorite
Yeah.
Brandon Lee films. But he's one. Sorry, I've just looked at. He's uncredited, but he's Yoshida's Men. So he's
Yeah,
not
I
Yoshida's
just had it in
man.
my head that he was in there somewhere, but it's one of those films I hadn't even thought about for ages. Like you occasionally bring up the podcast, I'm like, oh yeah, I really should rewatch that because I can't remember shit about it. And there was a clip of Brandon Lee and Dolph Lundgren fight, and I was just like, man, this just looks cool. I need to rewatch
I
this film for
feel
sure.
for this dude, mate, because he's been in like ugh, good films from my point of view. I will
Yes.
credit, but he's always uncredited. Like Showdown in Little Tokyo, uncredited.
So I'm gonna have to look at it.
Hot Shots Part 2, uncredited. Last Action Hero, uncredited. Beverly
He
Hills
was in
Cop
Last
3.
Action Hero.
Yeah,
I can't
Beverly Hills
remember him in
Cop
that.
3, uncredited. The
Well,
Shadow,
I luckily I can't remember anything about Beverly Hills Cop 3 other than the fact that it's ass, so that's fine.
he was Lewis randomly in Double Dragon.
Jesus Christ.
Double Dragon. And then
I
he
just
was
brought it up. It says he was in Godzilla,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
Roland Emmerich
I
one.
was getting to Godzilla. Godzilla, The Replacement Killers, Escape from LA.
Action Jackson?
Yeah.
Fuck it. Action Jackson is a film I could probably do without.
Black
Daredevil, the
Rain.
2003 version? I can't
Yeah.
remember that at all.
Black Rain.
Oh, Black Rain. Dude, that's another film we have to for the podcast. I'm
Yeah.
totally looking. Again, another film. All I can remember about Black Rain, other than it being like really smoky and stuff and really cool, is the fact that I really liked it. That's all I can remember. And the rest of it is just gone. But we'll end up just arguing for like 40 minutes on whether Kurt Douglas is actually
We won't if
a
you don't
movie
bring it
star.
up. When you start going, he's a great movie star. I'm going to have to defend the thing that he's not. If you didn't
Well,
bring it up, we wouldn't
I
argue about
don't
it.
think there's a defense though. Anyway, it
It
doesn't
is.
matter.
See,
It's absolutely not. He's one of like the three biggest movie stars of the 80s, but that's besides the
fuck
point.
off. He's not.
He absolutely is. Well, we went through the list, dude. Like his
It
films,
doesn't matter.
his list of movies in the 80s is if you're listening to this and you weren't around for the what was the podcast we did? It was
Romance in the Stone.
Romance of the Stone, which you weren't so first on, admittedly, a film I love. You go back and look at his IMDb from like 1983 to like 1992. It's fucking unbelievable. It is insane. I was even surprised going back. Jesus Christ, he made this many good films. See, I'm even doing it now. I can't help myself.
They're mostly shit films. Going back to Al Leong,
Oh my god!
yeah, they go back. He was uncredited in They Live as well. Like this dude is fucking everywhere in the
I forgot he
80s.
was in They Live. Yeah. But
Yeah.
those, like you said, but the thing is, in a lot of those films, I forget he's in them. But there are like
Yeah.
4 or 5 where I'm just like, and in fairness, it's one of the few times I'd say IMDb absolutely nailed it with the known fors. And I'm not just saying that because I got them right. I think most people with a fondness for 80 films would attach him to those movies specifically. And like you said, it is weird that he kind of disappears, because that whole fight sequence in the alleyway really does start with like, because 2 seconds later there's 1,000 people there or whatever the fuck it is, but for like it feels like almost a minute it's just him looking badass. That's it.
Him and his random bald friend who loves his six shooters. Like
Oh,
he's got the
so
fucking
cool. Yeah, he's cool.
he's got the two revolvers, but he's also got the bandolero thing going crisscross over his body. Like they all
Sorry.
rock up armed. Then all of a sudden, once the guns like once they've had a couple of shots off, they've said, "Oh, let's just pull out all the weapons."
See, I think that guy has been in a whole bunch of films as well, but I can't find him on the internet now. I should have done
I'll have a look
research
now. So
beforehand.
he looks like to me, right?
Mhm.
I didn't know if it was the same guy. I saw him and I immediately thought he was Shredder's second in command from TMNT.
He does look a bit like him. I seem to recall
But
the guy from is a bit thinner. I think
I
he's a
could
bit
be
leaner.
stereotyping the poor guy because he's bald and Asian.
Yeah,
I could be doing that.
You might be. You might be. You might. I mean, there were like what 4 or 5 years between the two films. And by the way, that's another film we've covered on the podcast, and it was really fun revisiting that actually. And another surprisingly good film when you go back and rewatch it is the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. It's easily the best one. Do we want to cover anything else before we move on to favorite scene?
I found him straight away.
Nice.
So his name is Gerald Kamura. He was in Mortal Kombat as an Outworld warrior.
There we go.
He was in G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra as Hardmaster.
Yeah, it's just one of those guys I've seen this motherfucker's face loads of times.
He was in Blade.
Yeah.
He was in Bloodsport 3.
Well, that's one for you. You can confirm that one.
Yep, he was definitely in that. 9.5 Ninjas. Oh, again, he was Hagata the Torturer in Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Oh, there we go. See,
they're fucking these guys in here. They're loving the littles, isn't they?
There's another movie we might need to cover, even though I know it's not fantastic. I do have a bit of a soft spot for. I think it was 1995's Mortal Kombat, not Annihilation. That was fucking terrible. But like, it's one of those. It was the first kind of like semi-successful video game movie where it was like everybody was just like, "This isn't great, but it's kind of doing what it needed to do."
With Mortal Kombat 2 coming out at the end of the year, we could probably
wait for that. Yeah.
And he was also in another fucking fantastic Brandon Lee film, Rapid Fire. I don't know if you remember that one. It had Powers Booth in it.
No, I've not seen that one.
Oh, we might have to cover that one as well.
Is it actually any good, or is this one of those you remember it being good?
No. I remember it being. I straight away. No. But I remember. I can't say.
No, you know what I mean. Like, is it a movie you have fondness for, or is it like I don't know anything about it? Is it kind of generally, held in high regard?
This is where we differ, which is quite good. I always say whether I like or dislike the film, and then you say, okay, yeah, but society fucking hates it. I can tell you it's a 6.3 on IMDb.
That's pretty high. It's pretty decent. That suggests there's something to. But that's the thing, because like you said, I put more weight into critical response to films. I know it's not perfect, but I think it's a kind of, it could guide me in the right direction. But when you're talking about movies which are like 30, 40 years old, usually you get a better feel rather than for the critical response. It's by the user score. Do people still have an attachment with it? And you've got to remember these films, like they might not have been perfect in like 1986 and whenever they're released. But if they're still being talked about and they're getting surprisingly high reviews, even if the critical response is bad, it's like you feel like there must be something to it. And it always brings me to, every so often, you'll kind of mine gold, as it were, with one of the examples I always use is The Wraith, because it showed up on, what was that? Because I was looking for Tammy and the T-Rex. It's on Plex. And on Plex, I think they've also got The Wraith. And I was like, oh man, the fucking Wraith. And one of those films, like if you told me The Wraith got completely slammed by critics at the time, I'm like, yeah, it probably fucking did. But people still have an attachment to it because it is something intangible about it. There's like a weird alchemy and magic where like you watch it and you're like, I know it's kind of rubbish, but it's also kind of fucking awesome, which is, and you're willing to dig those depths because a lot of those films are just plain shit. But every so often there is something on that kind of the precipice between being rubbish and being awesome.
You can't brush past Tammy and the T-Rex and not explain what it is, right? So I got to explain it. So I found this film, I'm fucking hell, 1994, starring Paul Walker and Denise Richards. Okay.
Which should get you in the door immediately. Like,
you should do.
Just looking really good. Both of them just being really attractive in 1994.
So, spoiler alert, because you'll see it anyway, as soon as because it's called Tammy and the T-Rex. Paul Walker dies, and they put his brain into an animatronic T-Rex.
Dude,
Not,
seriously, I had no idea that happened in this film. I had no
not,
idea he died and he was
not a
turned into a
proper
fucking
like,
T-Rex.
not a pro an animat. So the T-Rex is animatronic, right? So it's the rest of the film then
Is this
where
like a
this
precursor to like Friday Night at Freddy's then? Isn't that the kind of
Fight
cusp
Night
of
of
the
Freddy, Five Night of Freddy's, is it?
Five Night at Freddy's? Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Sorry,
I mean,
I'm not
this was
looking at it.
1994, so maybe any.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's so fucking fun. The reason they made this film, the
Mm-hmm.
director was called up by a dude from Mexico
Mm-hmm.
and said, "I have an animatronic dinosaur, but it's going to Tokyo in 2 weeks."
Do
So
you
he
want
said,
to do
"Right,
something with it in the
yeah."
meantime?
So he said, "Right, I'll write a film." So he wrote the film in 2 weeks,
Awesome.
shot the
And then
film,
guy,
shot the
got
film blocks away from his house. So
yeah.
all the scenes are set just where his house is and it was budgeted for $1 million. And if you
Well,
have
the thing
Plex,
is,
please
if
watch
you
Tammy and the T Rex and then blame me later.
well, the thing is, if you want to get a feel as to whether you should watch it, right? Rob sent me a clip of a fight outside the high school with Paul Walker and some other dude. I can't remember his fucking name, and it is spectacular. Not
Yeah.
spectacular is in so much that it's amazing, but it is something to behold. So we'll
It's
share that on the socials and stuff, so you can get an idea as to whether you want to watch. Is it Tanny or Tammy?
so it's Tammy and again, this is another perfect thing.
Because I was
It's
confused as shit because I found it and I turned it on. And I just like I got through the adverts just so when I want to watch it, it's just there. And I was like, all right, Tammy and the T-Rex. And then the credits said Tammy and the T-Rex. I'm like, what
so
the fuck?
it's
Am I having a
it,
stroke?
it's Tammy and the T Rex, but the guy who was typing the credits in
Uh-huh.
misheard it because apparently Tammy to him is not a name. Tanny is.
Of
So he
course, of
misheard it
course.
as Tanny and the T Rex. Put Tanny in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then they decided, fuck it, we can't go back and change it, so we'll just leave it. So they've left it on all the prints as Tanny, but in another country, it's Tawny and the T Rex.
But right, okay, so even before we get to the Tawny thing, Jesus Christ. The film, if you look at the poster, just to be clear, just to make sure I'm not having a fucking brain hemorrhage, it says Tammy with
Yeah,
two M's, yeah. So
two
they
M's.
kept everything else and went, all right, she's Tammy. Everyone refers to her as Tammy. But the opening credit, and when I see the opening credit, it really is just a still screen with just the writing, and it says Tanny. And they were just like, fuck it, just leave it in. That is unbelievable. That is
Yeah.
unfucking believable. It wasn't, just be clear, if you haven't seen this before, this isn't some big elaborate intro sequence. It's just a piece of card basically which just says Tanny. And it's just like, what the fuck? You couldn't go back and just go, do you know how easy it'd be to change Tanny to Tammy if you just added a line? Oh my God. Anyway, sorry. So
I said, I
Big
love
Trouble in
how our
Little
Big Trouble in Little
China.
China. I love how a Big Trouble in Little China podcast has just become everything fucking else at the moment.
But
It's
we said
ridiculous.
in our defense, we did stick to Big Trouble in Little China for like a good solid hour, but then Tammy and the T-Rex / Tanny and the T-Rex came up, and what the fuck can you do? So anyway, favorite scene. I can get through this really quick, and we know what the answer is. It's the alleyway sequence. I think the alleyway sequence is an absolute masterpiece. I think it's when you get all those genres, you know, pushed together somehow successfully for like an amazing 10-minute set piece, visually absolutely fantastic. Sure, the weapons are dumb as fuck, but somehow they look cool as well. So yeah, it's the alleyway sequence. And as I mentioned, I love that combination of on location shots and set locations. You can kind of see the differentiation. Of course, you know it is because that alley in San Francisco doesn't exist. Geography moments. I've been to San Francisco, and the first place I went was Chinatown because of this movie. And it does look like it does in the movie, but there are no alleyways like that. So yeah, that's my favorite sequence.
You're gonna hate me, but it's the end battle. I love the end battle. Like I love how chaotic it is. I love
Mm-hmm.
like the effects. They kind of hold up. The weird
Yeah.
red light and blue light connecting together, and then you get the weird.
It reminds me of, again, the second time we brought this up, it reminds me of when Dolph Lundgren fights Frank Langella at the end of
Yeah,
Masters of the
yeah,
Universe.
yeah, yeah.
The first time when he gets the sword, that fucking scene's amazing. I'm going to start talking about Masters of the Universe now. And he does the I have the power bit. They kind of, he has his staff, he has his sword, and it does the exact same effect. And yeah, it still looks awesome.
It looks ace. And in between it all, you've got Jack Burton being inept. Randomly, we haven't mentioned Kurt Russell as Jack Burton enough of his
Mm-hmm.
ineptness in this that we
No,
probably
we
did when we
haven't.
first covered it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's just amazing how inept he is. Like, they finally find, sorry, they get down to the bottom, and then Lopan figures out they're there. Wang kills the eye demon,
Mm-hmm.
and they're about to have the fight, and then Burton goes, yeah, like his rally cry. He shoots it, pops a couple of shots off, and it just bricks fall on his head. Concrete falls on his head, knocks himself out. Like he
Yeah.
is so inept. It's insane. And
They
then
don't
when he,
even they don't even just leave it at that either. Like like first the gun is jammed, then he shoots the gun, then the stuff falls on his head. Then when he finally does something half heroic, when he fights the big weird gold soldier guy, we didn't even mention the fact that they just show up out of nowhere. It then falls on him, and it doesn't just fall on him for a second. The fight keeps going on, and it's just he's stuck underneath it. Like at that point in the movie, and it is amazing to think that people didn't get it. Not everyone got it back in like 1986. If an hour and 15 minutes at this point, if you're still not getting that this is like a send up of the whole white savior trope, then I don't know what to fucking tell you, because it couldn't be any like for like 40 minutes, like you said, it's quite subtle. It kind of, there's almost like a bait and switch thing at the start where you're just like, oh yeah, he looks the part, he's super cool, you're being told he's awesome. But by like an hour and 20 in, you're just like, no, this guy's a bumbling idiot. There's no kind of gray area left at all.
best magic in that film is his gun, right? His Tech 9.
Yeah.
Because it jams 2 or 3 times, but it never needs reloading. So I don't know if the jamming is actually it's out of ammo, but that dude never reloads. He literally
because he never shot a gun before.
No, but he literally like it jams. He jumps off screen, jumps back, and all of a sudden he's got fucking ammo again. Like it's the best magic I've ever seen.
Stupid. But even some of the stuff like right at the start with like he has that whole like again, it's kind of cool. He's talking into his what is it like wireless ham radio. It's like if you paid your dues, Jack, yes sir, the check is in the mail.
And it's like CB. CB radio. What the fuck were you? CB radio is wireless ham radio.
I don't know what it is. CB radio.
He was talking on the talk box.
On the talk box, on the old talkies. And he's doing his little speech, and you're just like, is he doing this because he's got no one to talk to because he doesn't have any friends? I think there might be an element to that.
It's not because he's alone.
Yeah, he's traveling a lot.
No, yeah. And he's just one of those guys that thinks everybody wants to hear his voice.
Says two guys doing a podcast about 80s movies.
but he's talking on a radio, a CB radio, where probably people have changed the channel. Like he's probably talking to nobody. They've gone, oh, there's that fucking pork chop express guy again. Let's just change that.
It's too close to home now, especially as I'm sitting here wearing my Fu Manchu vest. What am I thinking? And that's one of the right. His look. I'm just like, is it iconic, or is it just because it's Kurt Russell who looks so cool? It's like. Right, if you take his mullet, for instance, why is Kurt Russell's mullet aged better than nearly any other cinematic mullets? And I'm like, I think it's just the head below it. Like, if you look, you think of like, when I think of 80s mullets, I think of, what's his name? Mel Gibson, say, in
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon. And obviously, very dramatic in Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome. But when you see it now, and there are all these memes about, oh, look, it's mum watching her kids open the Christmas presents in 1987. It's like, yeah, it kind of looks lame. But when you see Kurt Russell in this, yes, it is a mullet, and it's the same in Tango and Cash. You're just like, yeah, but he just pulls it off. Even his outfit, the vest is kind of lame. His boots are super lame. They're like knee-high. They're made out of like yak skin or some shit. On anyone else, it would look fucking tragic. And for some reason, you look at him and you're just like, yeah, he looks awesome. He looks awesome.
The featherness in his hair, like the way it just wafts, is great. Cool. I love the again. He's got these like Fu Manchu vest on. That's fun. The only thing I wish he would do is untuck the fucking thing.
So I get caught up on the boots. Yeah, you could make an argument for untucking it for sure, but it was the 80s, so I'll give him that. But the boots, really, the more I looked at them, the more I'm like, oh, they are just ugly ass fucking boots.
Well, they're fucked anyway because he pushed a knife through them. So
maybe there's that. Yeah. There's that. But I think so. Your favorite scene is just basically the ending.
Yeah, to a point. Like I said, the end battle. When it gets into like, then it's all in a reflexes kind of thing, kind of goes off the rails. But that last end battle where everything just goes to shit. I think it's great. I think it's great.
Fair enough. Yeah. In terms of loves and hates, so my 3 loves are, number 1, the subtle deconstruction of the white savior myth, while also making a movie about a prototypical white savior. I think it's absolutely genius. And as I said, I think a big part of that is obviously Kurt Russell's performance, but it's the script and direction from Carpenter as well. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Number 2, the direction, cinematography. I only mentioned the unique look of San Francisco in this film. It's not, usually when you think of San Francisco, you think of it as being somewhat sunny. You think of the rolling hills. This is a different kind of film, but still gorgeous all the same. And 3, just the successful amalgamation of so many genres. It goes off the rails a little bit towards the end, but for an hour, this movie is like quite literally nothing else. And that's one of the things we've not really mentioned. The fact that even, nearly 40 years later, there is nothing like this film. Nothing at all. It's
No,
a completely, it was a unique beast in, it was 86, wasn't it? It was released?
it was 86, yeah.
86. It was a unique beast in 86, and it remains a unique beast in 2025. It's absolutely insane. And number four, I got sneaking in Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
The reasons we've already mentioned.
So for me, number one, Kurt Russell, because he's fucking
Yeah.
great in this film. Which goes on to number two. I put it as the white savior piss take.
Mhm.
I do love the fact that they've gone right. Yeah, even in the 80s, they recognized it. We've got too many white savior things going on, so let's just totally rip the piss out of it. So I'm great with that. Number three, John Carpenter's direction. What I love about John Carpenter in this is the fact that any of his films, really, he doesn't have, because John Carpenter started off horror, should we say.
Yeah.
So Halloween, and then you get like The Thing and things, and Thing can be
Mhm.
classed as horror, can it?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Sci-fi
yeah.
horror, totally.
But then, like the rest of his films, pretty much, even though there's horror elements to them, they're fucking well, and even before that, like Assault on Precinct 13.
Mhm.
But it's just he doesn't have a genre he sticks to. He doesn't have a niche that he sticks to. He
He
kind of
almost, for like, I would say for like 10, 11, 12, like I said, between 76 and like 88 or whatever it was, he almost felt like a genre unto himself. It was always kind of like steeped somewhere in kind of horror and sci-fi, but they felt just like you would almost just call them Carpenter movies. In the same way you would say these movies are Spielbergian. There was for a period when you look back at at that run of films where I just say they're Carpenter-esque. Rather
yeah.
than, like you say, I don't even think of like you say as he's a genre, and he is a genre director, but he almost became a genre unto himself. And you rarely get that with it's only peak directors when you associate a star with them. You think of like David Lynch, Tim Burton to a certain extent, although that is purely aesthetic. But with Carpenter, it wasn't just the aesthetic; it was the tone, everything that comes with it. And you just saw them, and just within 10 minutes, you're just like, oh, this is just a fucking Carpenter film,
So just from 1980 alone, from 1980 to 88, right? Actually 92, 1980 to 92.
Mhm.
You had The Fog,
Great.
Escape from New York, two completely
Awesome.
different films. The Thing,
Awesome.
Christine,
Oh, I forgot about
Starman,
Christine. Great show. Oh, yeah, yeah, brilliant.
yeah, and then Starman, Big Trouble in Little China, Prince of Darkness, They Live, and then Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Well,
And
yeah,
then and then he did
that's when the train started to
yeah,
wobble on the tracks.
but like for me, then he brought it back within the Mouth of Madness and Village of the Damned.
Yeah, yeah, I'll give you
But
that.
then
Yeah.
and then he did Escape from LA and Vampires. So yeah, and then Ghosts of Mars like 3 years after
Oh, Ghosts
Vampires.
of
So
Mars, man.
yeah,
How did that happen?
bless his
Jesus
cotton
Christ.
socks. Like I don't know. He probably thought, you know what, everyone's been slating my films. They become cult classics. Maybe Escape from LA, Vampires, and Ghosts of Mars will be.
The
No, I
thing
will
is,
give him
if
this.
you're that successful for like over 10 years, you can almost be like, people aren't going to look back and go, oh, but his fucking 90s output wasn't very good. It's like, who gives a fuck? He's made so many unbelievably iconic movies.
Did you know as well, John Carpenter's Vampires? Did you know that it's stretched into two other films? I don't know if I've already told you this before.
I don't think so.
So there was Vampires Los Muertos,
Mhm.
and I can't remember what the was it. And there was a third one. I can't remember what the third one was. But the second one,
Mhm.
because this had James Woods in it, didn't it? Vampires. It had
Yeah, yeah.
James Woods,
That's all I remember about vampires,
yeah,
just the fact that James Woods in it.
and it had Terry Silver as the vampire from Karate Kid Part 3, Thomas Ian
Oh,
Griffiths.
God, I totally forgot about that.
Yep. Number two,
Mhm.
was it number two or number three? I'm pretty sure it was number two. John Bon Jovi.
No, see, this is ringing a bell. You must have mentioned this on a previous podcast because I remember being shocked that there were two more vampires movies.
Yeah.
Make no mistake. It was, but this was back in the day where any film which was even like remotely interesting would get like two or three straight to DVD follow-ups, especially for like
Especially
genre
around
movies.
about that time, because Dusk Till Dawn ended up with two sequels as well.
Yeah, Tremors, which Tremors is
Yeah.
a great film, and you've seen the lot, but Tremors has got like 5, 6 sequels. All these martial arts
Fuck
films
off.
had like 5,
Tremors
6.
has 8 sequels.
Dude, I don't know how many times you've had to tell me that Tremors has 8 sequels. It's like my brain will not accept it. It's just like, there's no fucking way that film's got 8 sequels. It's bananas. But that's what used to happen. So, but even by that metric, it's still a surprise that John Carpenter's Vampires, which if you haven't seen it, it's not very good, managed to get 2 sequels, which is bonkers. Not as bonkers as the 8 fucking sequels that Tremors had, but it is what it is.
So Bon Jovi plays Derek Bliss, a vampire hunter.
Brilliant.
He takes on board if I remember rightly, I've only ever seen it once, so don't hold me to this. but
I
he takes on
definitely won't. You could say anything, dude.
he takes on board an assistant named Sancho,
Mhm.
played by Diego Luna, as
Oh, really?
in Andor.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good
So
shot. God, he must
yeah.
have been young then.
Oh, 2002, mate. He's very young.
Oh, fair play. Well, getting some interesting facts about vampire sequels you didn't think existed, so that's amazing. In terms of hates,
Oh,
number
sucky, yeah, we're still on hates.
one for me, the last 40 minutes are a tad messy. So as I mentioned, too many ideas and characters on the wall. It's like I said, the lack of narrative focus drops it just below Carpenter's finest work. You know, as I mentioned, Halloween, The Thing, which is no bad thing because we are talking. I consider both those films in particular masterpieces. We both agree. Obviously, Thing is probably top of the list.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just think, as I said, for an hour, this film is in the same company. I think it's that good for an hour. It's just a shame that it goes off the rails. Number two, Jack Burton's boots, for reasons I've already explained. Number three, the three storms largely going out like punks, especially Thunder explodes from sadness, which is absolutely unforgivable. And number four is the ultimate love-hate combo, the escalator at Lopan's 80s marriage palace. Like, it has no fucking business being there, but I'm totally happy that it exists. So
I'd say
those are my
I'd
hates.
tip my camera a bit because I've got the escalator with the Jack Burton. It's like a weird little quick figure,
Amazing.
isn't it? Like a I think I've shown you it
Fantastic.
before. Hang on, I'm just going to
Yeah,
stand
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've shown this to you before. But it's the weird escalator with Jack Burton in his Fu Manchu
So
vest.
cool. So cool.
It's awesome. And I'll have to put a picture of this on as well so people
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. That's pretty
Yeah, because
badass.
that's fucking great.
But yeah,
Uh,
just a great shout out to Lopan's marriage slash sex dungeon at the end of the film, wherever the hell it is. Like, again, geographically, I have no idea where they are at that point of the film or where his palace is. Is it underground, above ground? I don't know at that point. It doesn't matter. Look, there's a fucking escalator leading up to a giant skull with neon everywhere.
neon.
It's
That's what the
80s
neon.
as fuck.
And the neon Buddha as well. They're like, oh, we
Oh,
can't just make
dude.
the skull. We got to make the Buddha neon. It's like,
How
oh, that's
how much
insane.
better is that set for the neon?
Yeah.
100% better. It's crazy.
Sorry, muted down so I get a cough again. Right. So for me, I had the Storm's death as well. Like
Yeah, it's
lame.
unforgivable.
Yeah.
Unforgivable.
Like you said, rain goes out all right. Thunder goes out like a whiny little bitch, and
Mhm.
lightning just like fucking poor lightning, man. Like was he too handsome that they just didn't give him enough to do?
Well, I think they were just too busy just trying to make him look cool. So, like I said, in that sequence, and in the sewers, he could have just killed everyone, but they're just like, we're just going to make him look cool and make him look cool. They do, but then he just dies and just like, oh man, that's a bit of a shame. For so like the closest thing to it, and I know he technically came back, wherever that bollocks, but it was like Boba Fett going out like a bitch in Return of the Jedi. It's like one of the coolest looking
Yeah.
characters in sci-fi history. Just get like a jetpack malfunction and get swallowed by like a vagina in the sand, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like that's the level of disappointment that we get with Lightning, who is one of the coolest looking characters of 80s cinema, and just kind of goes out with a whimper. But hey,
Last we saw Egg Shen, he was shooting like he had a rocket launcher in his Demon 8 bag, right?
yeah.
Last we saw, he was down there. How did he manage then to get above them all to go to two layers? He went to
Mhm.
two levels above them
Yeah.
to shoot his magic, I don't know, pulley system crossbow.
Is this a hate now or just a question in general?
It's a question.
Okay.
It could be a hate because not only that, the fucking strength he had to hold it,
Yeah,
pull
yeah.
up people heavier than him.
Well, just be clear, we can just get this out the way, and I probably should have mentioned this at the top of the podcast. Any question you throw at me for the last 15 minutes of this film, the answer is I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the answer is cocaine.
Or I was going to say the answer is cocaine. It's almost
Yeah.
certainly cocaine. Yeah.
All right. So number two, I've only done one hate. Fuck you know. Number two, Gracie. I couldn't get on with Gracie to be fair.
Gracie Law.
Like
It's a weird.
Gracie Law. Yeah.
It's all, as I said, my issue is the fact that her character is split into two with Margot, which felt pointless. But her performance, it's big, and I know it's weird to say this in such a bonkers movie, but it feels a little bit too big for this movie, and more importantly, it feels like it's from a different movie to this. It's quite strange.
I wondered if they had more for her, but basically she had to fuck off set every day at 4:30 because she was in a play.
Oh, well, maybe that's
So I'm wondering if there's
all
more
of her
for her, and they just
lines
like yeah.
are delivered with a kind of old-fashioned earnestness which belonged in like the 40s. It's quite strange.
Yeah.
I
And
agree. I didn't hate it, but it doesn't really work.
my final hate then, how is Lopan in America if he was cursed in China? Like
I think
how was he
more.
traveling as a ghost?
Why is he called David? Why is he called David?
It's like when you get a, it's like when you get a random phone call from a guy named like John Hasapima Pedlan. Like,
Yeah, we used to get that, and especially it's changed a bit now because of the politics surrounding China. But certainly when I went to China the first time, so it was like 2006. They were big, like that was their time because it was just before the Olympics in Beijing,
yeah,
and they were really trying to ingratiate themselves to the rest of the world. And there was a big thing about giving themselves Western names. So it was just like they would have their Chinese name and they had their Western name. That kind of makes sense, but why would fucking Lopan give a shit? Like David Lopan is such an odd name, but anyway. So those you hate. Any alternate? There has to be alternative titles for this film. Like this can't be called Big Trouble in Little China everywhere around the world.
no, there's a few alternate titles. So in Argentina, it's Rescue in Chinatown.
That's okay.
Belgium, The Adventures of Jack Burton.
That's actually okay. Yeah, I don't mind that.
Sorry, I had a fourth hate. I just realized I've written it down. So we're moving on.
Do you know the answer to this part? Like, what happened to this podcast? Cocaine. It was cocaine.
The opening of it, like they put the opening in to make Jack Burton a hero. But basically, what they've done is said Jack Burton's gone missing. Like, why? What's the explanation with Jack Burton? Yeah, because Jack Burton's missing now.
So that was a weird thing to jump in on, but that's actually a really interesting point. I'd never even considered that. Like, yeah, the whole film is structured around that opening section where, yes, he's kind of delivering like, oh, look, there's black magic and Jack Burton's a hero. But yeah, why is he missing?
Yeah, not a clue. Not a clue.
There we go.
Right. Sorry, we'll go back to the alternate title. So, Brazil, this is fantastic. The Adventures of the Forbidden Neighborhood.
Yeah, I guess it is a forbidden neighborhood, but not a great title.
Canada, French Canadian, if I'm going to stick to the proper title. Jack Burton's Adventures in the Clutches of the Mandarin.
Jesus Christ. I thought Big Trouble in Little China was a lot to deal with.
Croatia, Big Crowd in Chinatown.
No.
Apparently, big isn't good enough for the Czech Republic, so it's the Great Troubles in Little China.
Yeah, sorry.
Denmark. Who are the Chinese jumping for?
Okay, I don't know where they're going with that one.
Finland, Sparkle in Chinatown.
Nope.
Hungary, trouble is too much, right? It's not trouble. It's a big mess in Little China.
It's not as bad as some of the others, but
yeah. Japan, Ghost Hunters.
No, that doesn't work at all.
Kazakhstan, probably just concentrate a bit too much on Jack Burton himself. Big Ass in Little China.
Big Ass in Little China.
Yeah,
okay. There's a little bit more knowing about the supposed hero of this film, I suppose.
Again, Poland thought trouble was too much, and they didn't like Little China, so they went with a big drama in the Chinese Quarter.
It just sounds low key. It's far too low key for this film.
Romania, Scandal in Chinatown.
No, it sounds like a kind of law-based drama. If this film was based around what's the name? Gracie Law's character. Maybe that makes sense, but otherwise, no.
Serbia, Big Troubles in Small China.
Okay, fair enough.
Slovakia, Big Problems in Little China.
Yeah.
Spain, Coup in Little China.
Nope, no.
Yeah. Taiwan, Demons are in Chinatown.
What, question mark?
No, I just made that.
Okay.
The Demons are in Chinatown.
Demons are in Chinatown? Yeah.
I'm Ron Burgundy. Ukraine, big commotion in Little China.
Yeah. They're all basically just like, well, let's just take the title and make it a little bit more lame. That seems to be the gist.
But I've gone all the way down. I'm doing the last two. Uzbekistan, a big whirl in Little China.
No, see, same story again.
And Yugoslavia.
Come on, Yugoslavia.
Huh?
I was cheering on Yugoslavia,
I thought you said not Yugoslavia. You're not mentioning Yugoslavia on this podcast.
Fuck Yugoslavia. It's not a country anymore. I've got no time for it.
A big crowd in Chinatown.
No. Most of those are terrible in fairness. Any facts for this film?
Yes, there are. I'm saying that like I didn't know, but I do know. Kurt Russell confessed on a DVD commentary that he was afraid of starring in the movie because he had made a string of movies that flopped at the box office. When he asked John Carpenter about it, he told Kurt that it didn't matter to him. He just wanted to make the movie with him. Fair play.
It's quite sweet.
Yeah.
Well, it's a shame that this film also flopped, so that was a bit of a bummer.
The Chinese characters in the main title translate to evil spirits make a big scene in Little Supernatural State. Fantastic. Little Spiritual State, sorry.
That's the best alternative title for this film.
As we guessed already. We haven't mentioned it, but the three storms were partially the inspiration for the popular character of lightning god Raiden from Mortal Kombat,
Oh yeah,
while David
absolutely.
Lopan was the inspiration for the evil sorcerer Shang Tsung,
Yeah.
and the three storms were inspired by the Lone Wolf and Cub movie. Jackie Chan was John Carpenter's first choice to play Wang Chi, but producer Lawrence Gordon was highly against it, fearing Chan's English wasn't good enough after seeing his performance in Battle Creek Brawl and The Protector. But Carpenter wanted Chan after the success of Police Story. Chan declined, and Dennis Dunn was cast instead.
Oh gosh.
According to John Carpenter, the other I've already said that one. Sorry, I said that one. The vehicle Egg Shen drove in the movie was a 1936 white touring car. That car is now in Yellowstone National Park, the location for which it was originally built. It's named Hollywood and gives tours of the Old Faithful.
Cool,
So
cool,
if
cool.
you go to Yellowstone National Park and you have a tour of Old Faithful, you could be driving an Egg Shen's vehicle.
Awesome. Oh, speaking of vehicles, we didn't even mention Wang's pink Cadillac, which I was like, Jesus Christ, that just came out of nowhere. Just randomly for a scene. I was like, that's a hell of a car, but sure. I'm not sure if it
Or
was some kind of like elaborate nod to Christine or something, but it's pretty cool.
the gang's fucking like Trans Am or wherever that thing was as well. The way Fo
Mhm,
Mao Yin was put into the boot, bless her.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
What was that car? That was fucking lush. Was it a Corvette, maybe?
Or maybe it was the same. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's a lot of cool cars in this film.
Yeah.
But a lot of things that cool just kind of come and go as they please with this film.
Regarding the ornate Lopan marriage scene towards the end of the film, that whole set with the mouth coming down the steps of the escalator, it was very dangerous. James Hong revealed. It was a very narrow escalator, and I was on lifts, 12-inch lifts. All of a sudden, John said, "We don't have time. We've got to do it right away." I said, "Can't you get a stuntman? Get George Chung. He's my stuntman." He said, "No, no, you just got to step on." So with that long rope, I tried to put it over the lifts. And when I stepped on just the part before you go down the real escalator, I said, "Oh my God, this is going to be my last scene." It looked like I was fierce, but I was trembling. That's the way it was. Everything had to be real. Okay.
Fair play,
Fine.
fair play.
Yeah, that sounds like a fact to me.
Certainly does sound like a fact.
Yeah. Kurt Russell turned down the lead role of Connor McLeod in Highlander to appear in this film. Both movies were made and released by 20th Century Fox.
That would have been a different movie. That would have been a
A
very
very
different
different movie.
movie.
Can you imagine? Well, think about it, right? Can you imagine a Raiders of the Lost Ark with Tom
Tom
Selleck,
Selleck.
a Die Hard with Richard Gere, a Highlander with Kurt Russell, and a Big
Mhm.
Trouble in Little China with Clint Eastwood?
I
Well, that's
think
a fucking
bizarrely,
alternate.
the easiest one to imagine bizarrely is Indiana Jones. I really think it is. Obviously, it's like Harrison Ford is so so famous and just has so much iconography attached to that character. But if we didn't have Harrison Ford, and I think if Tom Selleck had played the part, I think he had all the chops and all the same kind of skill set that he would have absolutely pulled it off. So, it's one of those ones where I'm just like, yeah, it's hard to imagine it not being Harrison Ford. But if you told me it was Tom Selleck instead, I can see why they went to Tom Selleck initially, put it that way.
Yeah. The characters on the front of Egg Shen's bus say Uncle Egg's tours guarantee a good time.
Fantastic. Again, that is indeed a fact.
Yeah. The movie was parodied in a Chinatown Ghost Story, an episode of the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They even had James Hong provide the voice of a near carbon copy of Lopan named Ho Chan. Now, I've
Nice.
seen this because my kid currently is into anything turtles, so we've
Mhm,
watched
mhm.
all of the fucking animated shit.
Awesome.
Like, yeah.
Oh, I say
But
awesome.
yeah,
I'm not having to watch them all in fairness. It's a different beast when you're sitting down like Jesus Christ watching the fucking turtles again. Unbelievable.
again. Well, to be fair, it's better than watching Sonic for the umpteenth time.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, Sonic's a good film, absolutely, but for the like 50th time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I enjoyed Sonic the Hedgehog. I enjoyed Sonic the Hedgehog 3. 2 was fine, but I don't need to watch them again. That's absolutely fine.
Uh, to be fair, we'll leave it at that because the
All
rest
right,
of them
fair
are just
enough. Fair
like, yeah,
enough.
this person starred in
So,
this and this person starred in that. So
Hope to the Future remake sequel, Let It Die or Leave Well Alone. It really is a crime that there was never a sequel. I mean, a whole bunch of them. I think one of the alternative titles was basically like Jack Burton does something awesome in Chinatown. It's
yeah,
like that would have been a bad idea if there'd been more of them. I would even take Old Man Burton. Like I'd watch that. I just want to see more Pork Chop Express, please. It's a shame that the final shot of this film is actually that monster in the back of the truck. It's one of the lamest things in the film. But who doesn't want to see more Old Man? But like I said, there should have been a sequel in 88, 92, whatever. But the film didn't do well. I get it. But if you told me now that Carpenter was going to make a fucking old man Jack Burton movie in 2025, I'm like, yeah, I'm totally on board. He's still got an awesome head of hair. Fucking let's do this. But it's almost certainly not going to happen, sadly. But I'd love a sequel.
So yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. I would have liked the sequel back then,
Yeah, of
but
course.
it'd be interesting because you'd want to see you don't want to uh, try and capture what you had. So you don't want Jack Burton going back to Little China. So
No, no,
does,
no.
does Jack Burton like end up in Atlantis, or does he end up somewhere
No,
else? Like,
just
yeah,
so you can always just shift
but
kind of
that's what I
focus
mean.
from them. Yeah,
I want something like I want to follow the Jack Burton character doing something else.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Jack Burton is fucking have him be Homer Simpson in something else because he's just falling his way
Yeah,
through everything.
yeah, like just like the lame version of Indiana Jones
Yeah.
almost. Yeah.
But now, no, thank you. Don't want a sequel. Don't want a remake. The Rock can fuck off with him trying to do
Oh
this
no, no, I
again.
don't want a
Like,
remake. Like,
no, I don't want
just be
anything.
clear. I would accept, as I said, I'm not saying I want it, but if Carpenter said he was going to come back and he was doing Jack Burton, but it was still Kurt Russell, fine. But I do not want a fucking remake, and definitely I do not want a remake with the fucking Rock in it.
And I'm not too sure I want what you said as well with Carpenter because I don't want a legacy sequel. It'll be old man Burton with his kids running around, and I don't want
No,
it. I
no, I
don't want
don't
a
want
legacy
that. I
sequel.
just want it to be a Jack Burton film, if that's
Yeah.
the case.
If you gave it to me in the 80s, in 88, 89, like you said,
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah,
great.
yeah.
But now, fuck off. Leave Big Trouble in Little China alone. Just let me have what I have there. Again, they
Oh yeah,
did
I'm
one.
more than happy for them to leave well alone. It
Yeah.
was just like
Yeah.
if you were going to make a sequel, it would specifically have to be the two, like those two would have to be involved. And like you said, I don't want it to be him and his kids. I just want it
Yeah.
to be Jack Burton just doing shit as an old man.
I do think though sometimes this section can drift a little bit because we say what we would like to see, but if we boil it down to that question,
Oh, just leave well
remake,
alone. Yeah,
sequel, or leave well alone, it is leave well alone. Leave
yeah,
this
yeah.
film alone.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind
Yeah.
of, I'm just kind of pushing into a world where if there were to be a sequel, I could slightly get on board. But yeah, if we're getting down to one point, I'm going to say leave well alone. So I'm saying
Yeah.
to you, make a change. It's easy for me. It's just tidy up the second half. Just kind of shift the, just kind of streamline the narrative focus. Get rid of some of the superfluous characters. Don't bring in random monsters when you've already got too much on your plate. It's just try and kind of streamline, sorry, the second half of the movie, get the narrative back on track, and you would have had a near perfect film. So yeah, that's my make it change for this, which is actually a massive thing. It incorporates like 17 different changes. I'm just like, oh yeah, just streamline the second half. It's actually a big ask, but that's what I'd change.
I'm not as upset with the second half as you. I think it's great. The only thing, and I didn't really think about it, I was going into this thinking, what would I say for making a change? But you said something earlier on in the episode, which actually works for me. Make Gracie the reporter and fuck Margot and Eddie off.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's kind of even part of what I was talking about. It's just the film becomes a bit too bloated for its own good. It just has a few
Yeah.
too many ideas. Like you said, all those ideas individually fine. There's just too many of them for a film, which is like an hour and 45.
Also give me more hells, I guess.
Oh
I
yeah,
want more hells.
yeah, definitely more hells. We
I
can
want
all
like
do with more hells.
I want the hells of toenail clippings and the hells of
Yeah, the hells of not wearing socks on a plane, all that kind of
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
In terms of video games, sadly there wasn't a video game, which again seems like a bit of a crime, but this one wasn't a big hit. The obvious answer, and we've used this so many times, is Sleeping Dogs, but it'd specifically be the DLC. It was called like Nightmare of something or another, where
I never played the DLC.
Oh, the DLC was awesome. If you download now, like for the PS5, whatever, you're getting like the Xbox One version. It's like the definitive version, which includes all the DLC. But I'm going to go with Tango Gamesworks' Ghostwire Tokyo. Like that takes itself a little bit more seriously, but what it does is it sets it in a small part of Tokyo, and it has a whole bunch of ghosts, and you rarely get that. And I just like in terms of the scale of that video game, I think would be perfectly suited to this. Obviously, you need to add more comedy, but basically, I just want to see more Tango Gameworks, who fucking Microsoft criminally closed down because they made so many amazing games. Like, how do you make Hi-Fi Rush and then close a studio? It's fucking unforgivable. But Ghostwire Tokyo, and again, if you haven't played it, it's on Game Pass at the moment. Obviously, you can still get it on PS5. It's just a shorter, really cool little game, and I'm just like, I'd like to just shift the focus slightly and turn that into a Big Trouble in Little China video game. So that's my answer.
So naturally, you would probably think like how it looks, how you can make the city look, everything underneath. I would probably go Naughty Dog, and if I was going to go for a big epic game, that's probably where I'd go because I just can't get away from how Naughty Dog make games look. But if I'm going for something fun, and we stick to going around Lopan's ever expanding headquarters,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It feels like Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, that could be quite fun because it gets the
Yeah,
tone. And
yeah,
Luigi's actually a pretty good stand-in for Jack Burton. So
yeah.
he's a little bit more self-aware about how lame he is, but he's kind of like the lame, slightly clumsy hero. So yeah, I actually think that's a great shout, and I love the
Give
change.
Instead of Luigi having the vacuum or whatever he does, it's like the ghost up. You just give Jack Burton that endless ammo Tech 9 and
Yeah,
just take out
and a
the
knife
demons
that
and
is
stuff.
really shit at throwing. So
Yeah,
that'd be pretty good.
yeah.
So that's a good shot, actually. Best and worst of IMDb. So this is where we pick up one random 10-star review and one random 1-star review. Now, I suspect this film's got quite a few 10-star reviews because it is quite beloved. So I'm guessing less than 100 reviews.
In total, less than
Yeah,
100. No, no, no. 496 in total.
196. Okay, I'm not
Yeah.
getting that right. I don't know, man. 68 10-star reviews.
Oh, I say who because I'm stalling for time because now it's not loading. Oh, lost my computer. 150 10-star
Oof.
reviews. Yeah.
Underestimating the love for this film.
Mm.
I get it, though. A lot of people do absolutely adore this film.
Okay, so written in July 2001, title It's All in the Reflexes. Now, let me just speak my piece before some of you either laugh at me or totally agree with me, but I feel Big Trouble in Little China is one of the greatest movies of all time. Actually, it is my favorite movie of all time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know such movies as Saving Private Ryan, Shawshank Redemption, or even Willy Wonka might be looked upon as better. But I say,
That
who
was a
cares?
random last one.
It's Trouble in Little China is a fun movie that you can sit back on a lonely night and just enjoy. The plot is pretty basic, and that is why it's easy to follow. Yet the acting of Kurt Russell alone makes the movie full stop.
Mhm.
I'm not saying this just because I am a big Kurt Russell fan, but he just does a wonderful job in this movie
Mhm.
as a truck driver who has no clue on what's going on, but just goes with the flow. The witty lines of Kurt Russell in this movie are some of the funniest lines I've ever heard from an actor's mouth. I mean, the whole part of Lopan and Jack in the wheelchair is one of the funniest pieces of material I've ever seen on the big screen. Just remember, if some wild 8 foot tall monster grabs the back of your favorite head and slams it against the barroom wall and asks if you paid your dues, well, just tell him what old Jack always says. Yes, sir, the check is in the mail.
But I'm not gonna lie, I never quite got over the whole Willy Wonka's chocolate factory thing. It's just like, so I'm a big fan of Citizen Kane, but it has no Willy Wonka in the chocolate. Like that's a good film and people love it. It just felt like it came out of absolutely nowhere. But
Yeah.
I agree with nearly all that. Like I said, this film has its. I think it has its problems. I think we both agree it has its faults, and I think there is that differentiation between it's the best movie, which I completely disagree with, but I understand it being some people's favorite movie. And a big part of that, as we mentioned previously, is the fact that it's so unique and there's nothing quite
Yeah.
like it. And the stuff that really works in this film works incredibly well. When this film is at its best, it is absolutely fantastic. It's just, yeah, it's not the best movie because it's a bit too messy, but yeah, I get it why it's some people's favorite film.
Guess 1 stars then. How many
Is
one
my wife
stars?
going to write this? My wife fucking hated this film. Hated this
M-
film.
Me and your wife need to have a chat. Just a nice, gentle chat. Nothing
Yeah,
big,
yeah.
but
You took a
yeah,
weird
yeah.
tone. Me and your wife need to have a chat. I'm like, no, I don't think my wife's gonna have a chat with you at all.
How many 1 stars?
Oh, 28?
Oh, 7.
7. I thought more
Yeah.
people would because I feel like we mentioned earlier, it's like with the thing, I just think that is like objectively a masterpiece. This film is really awesome. But if someone told me, like my wife did, that they hated this film, I would kind of get it. Despite the fact
Yeah,
that
kind of
I
get it.
disagree. I could go on that journey with them and be like, oh, I can see why if this movie doesn't work for you, how it might start really grating, and if you start picking it apart, you're like, wait, none of this makes fucking sense. So I actually thought it might be a bit more than that, but hey,
Right. So, oh my God, this guy really thought about this title. Uh, January 2007, it was written with the title I love Japanese movies. I love manga. I love fantasy stories. I love Karate Kid. And I love The Last Samurai. But I don't love this.
oh,
Me and this guy aren't going to get along anyway because I hate Karate Kid. I hate The Last Samurai. So, fuck, you know. Right.
oh, I quite like the
Yeah.
last samurai.
Think Mortal Kombat with unimaginative characters. Heck, I love fighting movies. Japanese, and I was going to call it. I don't even know. I start again. Heck, I love fighting movies, Japanese and Chinese culture, samurais and comedies, but I loathe this piece of unimaginative rubbish. Damn, I
Mm.
think a 16-year-old could write better than this. I've had better dreams than this movie. I've just finished watching Big Trouble in Little China. It was predictable as any rubbish movie. It was boring. It was full of rather dull jokes and basically stupid, dull crap fight scenes. And I think there was far more posing than fighting from the main bad guys, who would pose for an hour, wave their arms around as electricity moves all around their bodies. And then when the good guys are making their escape, they would chase them, or then having a jumping sword fight for an hour. The worst part is that the main villain of the movie has such a rubbish demise and not demise. Fucking hell, spell that right, mate. Has such a rubbish demise and knife in the head. Yawn. Overall, I wouldn't waste my life even thinking about this movie. Again, avoid at all costs. Even fans of Mortal Kombat movies, stay clear.
Well, to call this film unimaginative is a bold, bold statement. As I said, I can understand why some people wouldn't get on with it, but to say that it's unimaginative is, I mean, come on, really?
Yeah.
I'm not going for that at all. So yeah, a bit of a big swing, but I can see how it might rub some people up the wrong way. But clearly, he's outnumbered massively. What was it 140-7 in terms of 10 stars versus 1 star? So
yeah,
a lot of love for this film. That is a really high percentage, actually, of 10-star reviews.
massive. I'm not going to work out the percentage, but it's a massive.
So that leads into our own ratings and recommendations. And for me, this one's like a really easy one, actually, because it's a 4-star and it's a yes. I would definitely tell because I still think it looks great. It's still super fun. There's nothing else quite like it. As I said, I've already mentioned my caveats and my issues with the film. I think it's a 5-star movie for the first hour. I think it's a 3-star movie for the last 45 minutes. And it levels out at 4 stars. So yeah, really easy for me. It's never even close to being 5 stars, despite the fact, as I said, for an hour, this is such a 5-star film. But because of the drop off, I'm like, oh, okay, this has too many problems, but it's just a really enjoyable, totally unique 4-star movie.
You, sir, are completely wrong. And me and your wife do need to have words because it's a 5-star movie and I would recommend it. And yes, I'm sorry. I know sometimes we say we got to take nostalgia out of this, but I fucking love this film. I adore this film. I have so much fun with this film every time.
Yeah.
I am going to make my son watch this film when he's old enough, and he better tell me he likes it or he's moving out.
It's very defensive about this film. Like you say, it's just one of those films I understand why some people wouldn't like it. And you've obviously quite defensive about this film because you took that stance like I'd said something outrageous. I gave this film 4 stars and said that for an hour. It's clearly a 5-star film.
It's so funny because you called me defensive because I said that, but as soon as I say Tom Cruise is a terrible actor,
yes,
look at your face.
Yeah, but those are completely different things. That's like the equivalent of me saying this is a 1-star movie because you go directly to the extreme, like Tom Cruise is fucking shit or Sandlot is fucking. I'm not saying this is fucking shit at all. In fact, I've spent the last hour and a half saying it's really good, and they're just like, oh, a 4-star film. Fuck you, Bridge. My wife, however, yes, you might take umbrage with her because she really did. I just a rating, but I think she might actually give it a 1 star. I think she disliked it that much.
I just wanted to get your ire up. That's all I wanted to do.
Oh yeah, well, it's so easy, isn't it? The buttons are there, easily pressed. So yeah, that's been 1986's Big Trouble in Little China. So next week, the third part of our revisit season. Usually we play like a game with this, but I'm pretty sure you know the way this is going. The year is 1987. The director is John McTiernan, and you know what film this is.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, to be fair, I kind of, when I look at the list of the 10 films, if we didn't go back and you didn't pick this, then I'd have to ask you to see a doctor. You go on about Predator so much, even after we've done it. If we were going back to revisit one of the first 10 films we've done, you're going to pick Predator.
Yeah. I mean, the way you talk, in fairness, you talked about this film is very much almost the way I talk about Predator. Like, I have a really strong attachment to that in terms of nostalgia. But as I mentioned previously, I actually will go to bat in terms of this being a near perfect film, in terms of the idea of, achieving what it set out to do. But I'm looking forward to rewatching it. I was actually thinking about buying the 4K for this rewatching because I've seen Predator God knows how many times. I've seen it at the cinema. I've never seen it in 4K, so this might be the excuse. But any excuse to watch Predator is it's fine by me. But,
yeah, absolutely.
It was always inspiring. There was a brief moment when I look back at like the first 10, 11 films we did, and I was just like, I kind of want to rewatch Teen Wolf for some reason. I'm just like, I fancy watching Teen Wolf. That film is not as good, but there is plenty to talk about when it comes to Teen Wolf. But maybe we'll do a second revisit series down the line, and I'll go back and pick Teen Wolf. But for now, it's 1987's Predator.
We had I had somebody come up to me the other day. I'd say somebody, a friend who's listening to the podcast, and he said he just finished a Teen Wolf episode, and no way did he ever see the dick at the end. The weird dick at the end on the bleepers.
That's the thing. Some people still don't think you can actually see his dick. It's weird. See this now. I'm thinking we have to go back and rewatch Timo so I can see if it's actually that guy's dick. But hey, but anyway, we're not doing that. We're doing Predator.
No.
So yeah,
Yeah.
this week has been Big Trouble in Little China. The third part, obviously, we're doing Predator, and then for the last part, it'll be your choice. So we'll see what's happening
Yep.
next week. But before we wrap this up, do you have any other business?
Yeah, I do. We've had a couple of messages that I've been saving, so I just want to go through them today. So, first one is from Stephen Dunn, who we've mentioned a few times on the podcast, but he sent us an email. Dear Rob and Liam, as expected, your 200th episode was better than the film being covered. But while slating robot
So
jocks,
nice of him.
it was Liam's brief mention of Firefox that took me back over 40 years. In 1983, I was one of the first in my class to have a video player in the house, and despite the fact it was a Betamax, several little pals were very excited to spend my ninth birthday watching a movie. My dad rented two films, but realizing fairly quickly Mad Max might be a bit violent, and not wanting
Fair
to
play.
risk the wrath of my friend's parents, he quickly ejected the tape and put the second film on. And that's why a group of 8 and 9 year olds who'd grown up with droids, Jedi Knights, and space battles spent an October evening watching a middle aged man keep the world safe from communism with the help
Awesome.
of some already dated special effects. I shouldn't be too harsh on my dad. He did let me watch Mad Max the next morning. Incidentally, I did grow up to love Clint Eastwood and Unforgiven in Line of Fire would both make a good subject for a future episode. We're going to have to do Unforgiven. A lot of people have said that I was very wrong to call that shit, even though I've never seen it. But
Yeah, if
uh,
you're on about
yeah.
extreme responses to films, I mean, geez, to call Unforgiven shit, Jesus Christ.
Stephen goes on to say then, I also mentioned to my wife you were recovering the Goonies and that I never watched it all the way through. A supply teacher put it on for our class back in '86, but after wheeling in the TV and video and struggling with the concept of putting the tape in the machine, we only saw 30 minutes of it. And I
Oh,
never felt the need to watch the rest. Now, my wife is amazed and somewhat disappointed to realize she's managed to spend over 20 years with a man who has sat through four Universal Soldiers, five American Ninjas, and six Kickboxers without ever watching what she fondly remembers as a Stone Cold classic.
wow. If
Therefore,
ever you had a kindred spirit, Rob,
I
it's
was
this
I was
fucking
gonna say,
guy.
am I married to this? Am I married to Steven's wife? It sounds like me.
Yeah, it's like the guy who's just like, man, I've got a lot of time for, Universal Soldier 6, but Unforgiven sure is a piece of shit. It's like, wow.
Yeah. He says, and therefore, I'm hoping and praying that you rip the absolute shit out of it this week. Please don't let me down. Well, sorry, Stephen, we let you down.
Sorry, but yeah, it was always likely we were going to give a
Yeah.
relatively positive review to the Goonies, to say the least.
He goes on to finish in. Here's to the next 200 episodes. So thanks, Steve.
Oh, fingers crossed, fingers
Yeah.
crossed. But yeah, like I said, I've never actually seen Firefox, so I need to get on the case. Although
Yeah.
talk of dated visuals in 1981 or whatever it was doesn't exactly fill me with joy. But yeah, I actually need to I bought a Clint Eastwood box set for this exact reason. This huge box set, tons of his films. I'm like, because I just haven't seen enough of his films, and I just haven't got through to it yet. So
Yeah.
maybe that'll be the place to start.
Uh, we've also got a message off Dan, who goes on to say, not to pick sides, but I 100% agree with Rob. Fuck you, Liam. No, he doesn't say fuck you, Liam, but I'm adding that context.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
My broke ass is swimming out to that ship, even to steal a few pirate coins. Like, right?
Wait, what's that? Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah,
At the end of
yeah,
the
for the
Goonies.
Goonies,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
My broke ass is swimming out to that ship, even to steal a few pirate coins. Oh, and also, Rob, you pinched my Monkey Island idea for the game section. I mentioned that to you after the first ever episode. So I've got to give him some credit. Apparently, I might have subconsciously stole his Island idea.
Well, I mean, and that's cool. I still think both of you are absolutely underestimating just how far away that ship is. I think you need to go back, watch the end of the Goonies, and realize you're both drowning in the search for potential jewels based on a handful in a fucking marble bag on the beach, which didn't look legit in the first place. So but then I love your commitment to the piece. Just like as soon as you see that pirate ship, you're just like, I'm swimming out to that motherfucker. I'm getting whatever's on there.
I mean, I was commandeering a Coast Guard boat. Like, he's swimming.
He's swimming. Yeah, he's next level. I mean, the confidence he has. I mean, in fairness, you do go swimming quite regularly. Maybe you'd fucking make it. Who knows? I just know, like, I don't go swimming nearly enough. I make it out like 100 yards. I just fucking drown. So it's absolutely out of question.
Last
I tell you the other thing
message.
you haven't considered, and we mentioned it last week on the Goonies podcast, the fact that Mama Fratelli suddenly just magics herself back up onto the ship, and in the Goonies wiki, it just says she climbed back up the pirate ship.
Yeah.
How the fuck are you going to climb up a pirate ship? This is so tricky. There's a whole film set on the idea that they jump off a boat, and then they remove the ladder, and then they can't get back up the side of this, by comparison, pretty small boat, and it turns into a shark movie.
No.
This is a fucking pirate ship.
That pirate ship's got the rigging on it. It's got the netting on the bottom.
Does it? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Fair enough. Maybe I'm underestimating everyone's abilities and commitments to get on this goddamn pirate ship. So maybe I'm the coward. Who knows?
Right, we're coming up to 2 hours, so I'm going to end this now. But one more message. I think so. We started about 4:15. We're now on 6 o'clock. Christ. So last message then. So Becky, and perfect for this episode. I listened to your episode for Big Trouble in Little China last night. I laughed so hard. It's one of your guys' best episodes. When you guys said Jack thinks he's cool in his mind and he doesn't have any friends, he talks to whoever listens because it's true. You said something about a sequel between Big Trouble in Little China and The Golden Child. I'd vote for Big Trouble in Little China. I didn't see all of The Golden Child. By the way, have you guys covered Tango and Cash yet? Yeah, Becky, we've covered it and it's great.
Yes, I've got a lot of time for The Golden Child, but it's not nearly as good as this film. It's just not in the same. It's not in the same category at all. Sadly, it's a bang on. See, I'm going to say this now, and someone's going to say, "I listened to the podcast. You gave it 5 stars." It's a 3-star film. It's totally a 3-star film.
But I will end with, as you can see, we do read out the messages. So if you want to get in touch with us and let us know what you're feeling or anything like that, just shoot the shit with us, send them over, and we'll read them out.
If you want to tear me a new ass off and I'll swim down to that goddamn pirate ship in the Goonies. Fill your boots, apparently.
I'm the one that reads the messages, so even if they don't, they will. I'll make sure they tear you a new asshole.
Well, thanks for getting in touch, guys. But I've been Liam, he's been Rob, and you have been listening to the Hey Guys podcast. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Hey, you